10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, my ghouls and goblins, welcome back to another edition of your weekly horror movie podcast, Reely Scared. I'm, of course, joined by my favorite ghoul right off the bat. Jessica's here with me.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. We've got a great show lined up. We've got a whole bunch of squares to bring into the mix here tonight. And that's not an insult, just a geometric observation. Coming in hot with a little bit of that trivia personality montage. If you guys haven't been watching our Reely Trivia Showdown over on our YouTube channel, it is heating up as we're getting closer to the championship match. So if you are not checking that out, you need to head over to our YouTube and see what's going on over there. It's been really fun. That being said, we aren't here to talk trivia. We're here to talk spooky stuff. And who better to bring into the mix when we're talking spooky stuff than the almighty Kyrie Love.
Howdy.
How you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing really good. If Jessica's your favorite ghoul, I'd be your favorite goblin.
You're absolutely the top goblin in my life.
So cute.
Top goblin. I never told anybody that before.
Oh.
A lot.
It's very special. And, usually we would keep it down to 2, but we got all sorts of guests coming on tonight. I'm really excited about this. For the first time ever, introducing my good friend, author of Ashes, Stories from the World That Is, my buddy Adam Wasco.
How we doing, everybody?
Very good.
Fantastic. Welcome to the show. First time ever.
Thank you.
Very excited to have you on.
Super pumped to be here.
Sweet. Glad to hear it. He's looking as slick as I've ever seen him.
Oh, so slick, sir. You have no idea.
So slick, you can't keep your hands up. You can get right out. And we're not done. There's more where that came from. Because I also would like to introduce for the first time my friend, author of upcoming book, the first great American novel where parallel lines meet, a story of non sequiturs, Matthew Sareback.
Hi, thank you for having me. I did 2 things this week that I've never done before. I read a book and I watched a movie.
Wow.
I'm glad we could help you make that cultural, artistic shift.
They're really expanding my worldview at the moment.
Cheapers.
And I feel like, having seen The Rental, you pretty much know all there is to know about film.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't ever need to see another horror movie. This one checked every box you could ever imagine.
A classic, traditional entry point into the world of cinema.
It was like a romance drama for 95%.
Yeah, and we'll get into it. We'll get into it for sure in a little bit here. But we always start this show off. It's only one way how we talk for a little bit about the stuff we've been watching. I guess Matt's not got much to talk about because he's never watched any other movie other than this one. but that's very special and important. But we talk about what we've been watching lately. It doesn't have to be horror stuff. Connor, what have you been watching?
Well, I haven't watched a lot lately. I watched Slumber Party Massacre. That's better.
How is that?
A classic 80s B horror movie. It's bottom tier. It's very silly.
Bottom tier.
Lemon-clad serial killer, just terrorizing some people. It's what you would expect from a denim-clad serial killer.
Believe it or not, I think I've sold a couple Blu-rays of Slumber Party Massacre.
Villain.
I also watched a weird horror film on Shudder as well called Bag Boy Lover Boy.
I don't know that one.
Very weird.
Sounds weird.
It's akin to Maniac. I don't know if you've seen Maniac.
Yeah.
Weird. This very weird hot dog vendor, and he gets asked to like take some photos. This like weird fetish photographer like recruits him, and then he just goes crazy and starts killing models. Very weird. Gross. And then I've been watching a lot of New Girl. I started New Girl.
There you go. Balance it out.
It's hilarious. I can't wait to get off work and watch a few episodes and then go to bed. So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've watched.
A good mix. Adam, you been watching anything good lately?
I've been watching stuff. Some
Is
of
that
it.
good stuff?
Some of it. Actually, people with Netflix, I highly recommend watching Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. That's super awesome. It's adapted from a webcomic of the same name. That's Kipo, Kipo. It's super adorable, very, very cute, but really cool story. Sort of an all-age kind of thing. Also, I watched Tusk recently.
Oh, yes.
Don't do that.
I'm a big fan of Tusk.
Hold on. Tusk is a masterpiece. How dare you?
Oh, Matt came in with the Tusk support. I thought he was a Tusk naysayer. He came in with Tusk support.
Tusk was the equivalent of like eating like frozen barf. Like you took a thing that's already really uncomfortable and you made it even worse somehow. Like it was bad. Don't do it.
This isn't a great first impression. That's all I gotta say.
I'm a master of not making good first impressions. Also, on Netflix, Old Guard, definitely worth the hype. Charlize Theron as an action star is I have such a massive lady crush on her.
That's the wheelhouse now. After Mad Max and
Atomic Blonde, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is easily one of my favorite cinematic experiences of my life to date.
Yeah.
Super cool. Loved it. But what else? I think not too many other. I saw Finding Nemo for the first time today. I'd never seen that before. My wife was very insistent that I watched Finding Nemo.
We got thumbs down on Finding Nemo out there.
I hate Finding Nemo.
Connor, you and I are on the same wavelength.
Finding Dory is fine.
I would like to, if I may interject, Mr. Matt, the one with 2 T's. I think you're the one that's real bad at making first impressions here if you like Tusk and hate Finding Nemo. Like, are you going to tell me you don't like WALL-E? Because WALL-E is easily the best love story that has ever been made.
I'm not a fan of WALL-E. I don't hate it. It's okay.
This is going up in flames so quickly.
I have to cancel the show. Plugmaster might pull the plug tonight. I don't know.
Right. No. But yeah, so that's stuff that I've been watching.
Wow. I didn't expect that to be such an
I didn't expect just to walk away.
Pacing the room.
I'm a contentious character. All I do is bring conflict where I go. I'm actually one of the horsemen of the apocalypse, and it's just shitty opinions. That's my horse. I ride shitty opinions wherever I go.
Or you apparently incite shitty opinions because you got the.
I do. I bring the worst out of the best people. It's awesome.
Finding
And I also do bring the best out of the worst people. I don't know which you guys are yet, but we'll find out.
I don't know if we'll recover. If we'll cover from this terrible tone that's been set. Let's see if Matt can pull us out.
Bring us
What
back.
have you been watching?
Well, I watched The Rental. I did. Before my girlfriend left for Puerto Rico, we were watching New Girl, so I connect with you, Connor.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on how you feel about Schmidt. That determines what kind of person you are.
How do you feel about Schmidt?
I have a love-hate relationship with Schmidt. Sometimes I despise him. Sometimes I'm like, oh, he's just a hopeless romantic. But most of the time I'm like, all right, put some money in the douche jar.
Yeah, no, I pretty much hate him. I think he's sort of like the lead in The Notebook, where I feel like it's like this really misguided romantic guy.
Yeah.
Who's really just like a Me Too waiting to happen.
Very true.
Yeah.
That
sums up The Notebook really well, actually.
Oh yeah, no, when he tries to kill himself in the first 10 minutes for a first date, super normal.
Sure, very kombucha move. Immediate visceral gut reaction. Just Jessica knows.
Yes, that Gobi, right? That's what it's called. The Gobi, I think. So you gotta like culture your Gobi. I don't know. I'm not.
I don't think any of the other white guys in the room want to touch that joke.
The black guy in the room doesn't want to touch that joke.
We saw Max Greenwood play baseball one time. That's my connection to this girl.
Really?
Girl. Yeah, at the celebrity game
in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was throwing out pitches to Anthony Mackie, and
Fuck Anthony Mackie.
You were saying really mean stuff to him.
I know. I love Anthony Mackie. No, I love.
You were
I
definitely.
bet he knows that.
No, I've met him. But no, he was just on the opposite team. So
I think there's literally no reason to dislike Anthony Mackie.
He was on the enemy.
He's a really
team.
nice guy.
He's a Trump supporter.
No.
Yes.
This is
Yes, he is a Trump supporter. You didn't know that? That came out during the election in 2016.
There's a reason to not like Anthony Mackie.
Yep, he's Uncle Tom. Just putting that out there.
Found the reason. Didn't have to dig very deep. Thanks, man. Yeah.
You really do bring out the worst and the best people.
Let's just say he's not an opal mine. You don't need to dig that deep to find it.
This is the most controversial first 12 minutes of the show that's ever happened. So this might be into something here.
Oh my god, this is the most controversial the show has ever been.
It's not that controversial then. We need like 20 more minutes at least.
It's usually pretty conflict free.
Yeah.
The guy who says Finding Nemo sucks.
Wall-E is the best. Wall-E is still the best film. Wall-E is the best film that's ever been made.
You want to fucking fight?
Oh my god!
I want you to fight.
Fight Taylor.
Is that cool?
I like Finding Nemo.
Just fight people.
I like Finding Nemo. What have you been watching lately?
Damn it, Connor. And I liked you.
What have you been watching?
We watched this Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children this past week for the first time.
Oh, how was that?
It was pretty good. The kids and I liked it. It's no Finding Nemo.
But what is
Wall-E?
I will say it's better than Finding Nemo.
Wow. I think we need a whole episode to dissect Nemo takes.
But I like
Connor actually breeds dissent, not love.
Just a dick.
Connor breeds dick.
And then the Office, Parks and Rec, and God, what is that other show I've been watching? With the Fab Five. Queer Eye. Fuck. And then The Rental.
Of course, The Rental.
And we watched one episode of Hannibal.
Yeah, and that's probably all I've watched in the last week that isn't The Rental.
It's finals week, so been super busy studying. So
yeah, my time has been, if it's not been going to work, if it's not been doing homework, if it's not reading Lovecraft Country or watching The Rental, I think I watched one episode of Hannibal, and that was my reprieve for the whole week. That's all I think I really got. I can't think of.
I actually can't
Well,
remember.
hold on. You got a Saturday with the boys. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I wasn't watching anything.
Doesn't matter. You said that's the only reprieve. That's the only reprieve you've got. You got a whole Saturday with the boys.
Saturday with the boys.
Saturday was a very cursed time.
It definitely was a Saturday of the boys.
A lot of
it. Jess was not happy.
It felt like a fever dream.
Yeah, we had a weird day.
Which you can go watch Connor's cool food review on our Twitter or Facebook.
There's 2.
Yes, there's 2.
That was a G Fuel, right?
Yeah, G Fuel shotgun.
I saw it. I saw that one.
That's where the day started to make a down.
So that was the peak. That was peak day. Was G Fuel shotgun?
That was
no, it was all
like 15 minutes into the day.
Right, but if it was literally all downhill from there, then that has to be the peak, right?
Yeah, that was the peak. I got there and I shotgunned that right away, and then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, there was some dew passing out. No bloody noses this time.
I had a stomach full of Mountain Dew, fuel, and bourbon.
Yes, the bourbon. No, he didn't barf. He didn't barf.
You didn't see him barf. He barfed.
No, I didn't barf. I was
in a robot.
It was weird.
Good day. I watched Hamilton before that.
Nice.
And I watched all of the Batman films ever.
Why?
Because I have a championship match. I have a championship match coming in a Reely Trivia Showdown, and I gotta wait and see Showdown. And I gotta wait and see who my opponent is. So, yeah, Masters #1, baby.
I've only ever read one Batman comic. I've read Hush, and I really enjoyed that.
See, that's a great story arc. I actually have that in a little safe in my room.
That was a good one.
Safe.
Yeah.
I have read some Batman Beyond since then, though.
Right here.
Batman Beyond.
You don't want burglars to take your copy of Batman Hush?
Well,
no, it was just a way to store something.
Now with a horror film related to Batman, we can talk about Batman on this segment, but they haven't.
What about Spawn? Can we transition to Spawn? Because McFarlane is billing it as a horror film.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so do I. But no, it's what have you watched? I've just been watching DC movies, and I started watching some rock movies today, and yeah, I'm just having a good time.
Rundown?
Did I watch what?
The Rundown.
That's one of my favorite rock movies. I actually have that on DVD. So
Rundown.
That was like his only good movie from his early career.
Yeah.
You should have stopped at only good movie. You should have stopped.
Like Be Cool? The sequel.
No, I like Be Cool. That's one of the only good movies from his early career.
My favorite part in that whole movie is when he slaps his ass.
I wonder why.
Nice.
Taylor, you got some competition.
He's got a great ass.
Who's it? Sean William Scott? Who's in that movie?
Sean William Scott in The Rock.
Wow, Stifler, classic Stifler.
Yep.
We got a classic Stifler.
Typecast. That's what he was.
All right.
Move on to our news.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Let's get into the news. Not a ton to talk about in the news this week. Not a heavy news week, which is good because I think we'll have much more to discuss with some of the stuff we've been watching and reading. First off, though, something I didn't really expect to discuss on this show, and probably won't much after this, but we did get some Emmy nominations. Couple of noteworthy things, at least through the prism of horror, came up. What We Do in the Shadows got a nomination for Best Comedy Series and Writing for a Comedy Series. 2 different episodes were nominated for Best Writing in a Comedy Series. Stranger Things got a nomination. Oh, there it is. Whoa! Stranger Things got a nomination for Best Drama. And our man, Jason Bateman, got a nomination for Best Guest Actor in HBO's The Outsider.
I'm very happy about these. One, The Outsider, possibly one of my favorite shows of this past television season. It was painful waiting, 7 days till the next episode. It was fantastic. Stranger Things, obviously, is pretty much a staple in popular culture now. So it's always fantastic. Everybody's waiting for the next season. I guess what we do in the shadows, I guess this is the reason enough for me to start it. I was always hesitant to watch it because I love the movie, but Taika didn't really have much to do with the series besides producing it. So I guess this is, good enough reason to start it.
Yeah, I keep wondering, should I check out that show? And every time I hear something about it, it's apparently the best. So I guess I should check it out. Matt or Adam, have either of you do either of you watch any of these shows, or are these any of any interest to you?
I'm not familiar with any. No, sir.
Not familiar with any of them at all?
No, sir.
That seems absurd.
I'm working on 2 different comics for 2 different people. One of them is me. One of them is someone else. I'm editing a novel for someone else, and I am working on a video game right now. So I have a lot going on. I don't
even know those little strange things?
I did see the first season of Stranger Things when it first came out.
Okay, so there's some familiarity there.
There's that, sure.
I saw like 5 episodes of The Outsider. So I think Jason Bateman's super deserving because he was the only good thing about that show.
And that's based on the Stephen King book, right? That's Stephen King book, The Outsider?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could see the smile as he knew he was coming in with maybe something controversial.
Yeah, a very hot take on this show.
Yeah, no, but it's true. So, and then obviously Stranger Things, same deal. They should have just stuck with season 1. Season 3 was awful. Season 4, I'm sure, will get progressively worse.
Hold on, season 1 is trash. It is literally just Goonies and
every season is great.
No, season 1 is trash. Season 2 is worse somehow, and season 3 they finally made some semi-original good.
I'm getting heated.
Yeah, season 3 had Russian soldiers.
Did you say original? Because there's Russians.
Semi-original. It wasn't
a horror.
Stranger Things is not original at all. It takes a lot from Stephen King.
Oh, I know
Nothing is original. Come on now. It's 2020.
Spielberg. It takes a lot from everything, but I think that's what makes it great is because it's so and I love it. I've loved every season, loved every episode.
The best thing to come out of that show was the Baskin Robbins exclusive ice cream that released with season 3.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm lactose intolerant though, so
yeah,
that was great.
I don't eat sugar, so.
Damn.
Connor's over here looking pissed.
Somebody's scorching hot opinions on this show. I, whenever Matt pops in, it's really scary. He comes in and says something that upsets everybody.
He went from the first season's great to the only good thing that came from that series is the best flavor. So I don't know.
I said the first season is garbage, not great.
Oh, I thought you said great.
That's a really weird. I've never heard anybody say the first season is bad and then they like the other one.
I have not liked the season until season 3.
Maybe you just don't like that show.
No, because I love season 3. Season 3 was some of the best television I had seen all that year.
I've actually still not watched season 3, so I have no opinion on that.
I'm kind of impressed that you see a show and you're like, man, I don't like that. I better watch the next season.
My girlfriend loves it.
I don't like that. I better watch the next season.
My girlfriend loves it, so I gotta watch it.
I understand that. That's why Nemo happened to me today. My wife was like, I'm turning Nemo on, and it's like I won't argue with you.
Just like I'm probably gonna have to turn something on in like 5 minutes. So yeah.
Jeez. What's it gonna be?
I don't know. I'll
Finding Nemo.
Oh, Connor, I have that recording. I have it recording. Trust me. I ain't. Plus, I work at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow. So yeah.
So that's the Emmys.
Yeah, that was hot takes on the Emmys.
Impressive.
The Emmys, unless Jessica just went to sleep out of aggravation, I think.
Sure.
Unless you would you like to make a
boiling Nemo rage?
I have nothing to fucking add to this.
She sounds upset.
No.
I bet she's nice though.
So, Comic-Con at Home was this past weekend, and there's some stuff that came out from Comic-Con at Home that pertain to horror. One of those is A Quiet Place 2 was postponed the next year.
Yeah, we got those postponed movies, as we do every week.
That was a very good film, though, the first one.
Yeah, the first one is masterful.
Very good.
I don't expect John Krasinski to go from The Office to writing and directing a horror movie like that.
Yeah, it was beautifully done. It's sort of like the phenomenon of Disturbed's Sound of Silence, where it's just like didn't expect that, but that's where real passion comes from, right? Is when people like do something that's like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this thing that I feel real strongly about, and everyone's like, but that's weird, and you're like, yeah, but I real like it, and then you end up making something beautiful.
Like a good actor is if there's very minimal dialogue, and you can still make an interesting movie based on your acting with no dialogue or very little dialogue. I think that shows that you're a fantastic actor. So everybody,
which was actually a perfect example of how Henry Cavill took The Witcher and actually made a very individual character out of him, because he's so expressive with his face. Because like in the books, the character of Geralt, he's very monologue-y. But he's just so expressive with his face and things. He can just get away with a fuck, and that conveys like so much.
Yeah. So I'm pretty bummed this got postponed, because this is one movie I'm really looking forward to this year, and of course, pretty much everything's going to get postponed until next year. But I'm anxiously anticipating this.
Yeah, I know Jessica was very sad to see this get pushed to precisely April 23rd, 2021. So quite some time away now.
Can I ask you a weird question?
I don't even
I guess maybe as like a horror outsider, horror adjacent. I have a question about a movie like The Quiet Place, which I saw and thought was like really good, but it wasn't scary. So it's like part of the horror movie meta now that it's not like scary anymore because they can't really scare you. So it's supposed to be like, it's scary, but it's just really good acting.
I think with horror, there's a lot of subgenres, and it all depends on what you find scary.
Relative. If it's relative.
Yeah.
Typically, if it's something that you can typically relate to and personalize within yourself and in your life, then that can be really scary.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like a lot of people don't find it scary. Some find it just absolute garbage. But if personal loss and dealing with family tragedies is something that you find terrifying, then you'll find the movie terrifying. So there's subgenres for horror. It all just depends on what you find scary.
I think that's a
relative to your personal taste.
I think that's a good rundown, but I think it makes it hard to pin down since we're talking like categorization. And when you have a subjective category, that's an ineffective category. So what makes it horror, right? Like is the show Supernatural a horror show? Well, no, but it's dark fantasy, right? Horror. But it's just like, but take Pan's Labyrinth, right? Like there's like gut dropping moments of dread in that film because of the content, but it's not a horror movie. I don't think anyone would call it a horror movie.
Yeah.
But I mean I'm not really into a lot of like when you think of like horror movies, a lot of people I think generally go to like slasher films, right? Like Creature from the Black Lagoon, or they go to like gore films like Saw, right? Human Centipede, all that stuff. But yeah, so like what exactly? No one can relate to Human Centipede. Literally, no one can relate to Human Centipede. I hope. Otherwise, I hope you're dead.
Wow. Okay,
I pray that you're dead. If you can relate to that film in any area. But yeah, so I think that is a good question though of like where does that horror what makes it horror?
And I think that's what makes horror so great, and I think that's what makes me love horror so much. That it can bring in pretty much anyone. It's one of the most popular genres. That's why you see tons of horror. It's because it's so easy to make.
I think it's interesting to talk about like horror as having a subgenre, because I view horror as like the consummate subgenre. Like horror isn't a category of film for me. There's like something horror. There's action horror, there's horror suspense, there's a horror thriller, there's something like that, just like with video games, right? Like when you have like the jump scare kind of things. You might call that like a horror adventure or something like that,
And
where you have dead space action horror.
That's comedy horror.
Right.
Comedy.
Sure. And so, but like horror, like there isn't like a pure horror anymore. I think there was in the fundament of it when you did run into like slasher films and things like that, but we just don't
be all
right. But we just don't have stuff like that anymore. Other than some vestiges like the Jason and Freddy movies they're still making, but those are as useful as like legs on a salamander, right? Like they don't do anything. Why are they there? Like, I don't think they really add anything. No one's adding to things. Like the horror films seem to be much more of like a nostalgia factor rather than anything else. Though we do still see authors doing excellent work with horror as a subgenre.
I think I think now it's kind of about finding that unique premise or finding that just that little hook, because it has been done so much and because it is so self-referential and often wears its influence so heavily on its sleeve. Something. So we were talking about Quiet Place. You know, the idea of what if I did a horror movie, but you could barely make any sound. You know, you could use soundtrack or score in it, but there's very little dialogue and then there's very little sound. You know, okay, how would you pull that off? And I think maybe that's what makes a movie like that so effective. And is it scary in the sense that I go home and go, oh man, hope those long-legged alien fellas don't come rip down my door and get me. No, I'm not worried about them. But if it's at least immersive enough that for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I'm not worrying about anything else. I'm just stuck in the movie and living in the movie and feeding off the tension or the escalation.
Yeah, I feel like it would make it be much more of a suspense film rather than like a horror film. But I can understand suspense falling under that horror umbrella because like the entire time like that, my wife and I watched it. Like my wife was just like grabbing onto her hair, just like, and then like an hour and a half into the film, so like right as the credits started rolling, she's like, "I can't believe it ate the kid," you know, like that's when it hit, like the beginning. So I think, but I would say like the suspense of that is so masterful. Like it's very much like a my heart hurts like the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hell of a way to open up on a story.
Yeah. Also, Bird Box is the worst wannabe of that film. Of just like, wow, sensory deprivation. Like single. Did you say they just announced a trailer or a sequel to that?
A couple weeks ago. Well, so a sequel book coming out, and then naturally, of course, they're making a sequel movie out of it too.
I hand wave it. That's my current.
I would give the book some I haven't read it. I give it some leeway though, because obviously it was written before that movie.
Sure.
But it thing did feel like, well, let's try to do that, our version of that too.
Right. I mean, that couldn't have been exactly how it went because of how much production goes into the making of it. Like they could not have seen because they weren't that far apart, were they?
Yeah, I think
like I want to say they were
within a year.
Subsequent. Yeah, it was like a subsequent year or like beginning of year, end of year or something.
And then I believe Bird Box was January.
Yeah, so it was like less than a full year. So obviously they had to have been doing that for well before, but it just didn't smack right. Just because Bird Box, I feel like, was a less believable story. It just felt more awkward. There wasn't as much chemistry between the characters, and it probably just didn't. Like Sandra Bullock is great, don't get me wrong, but there just wasn't a lot of. There wasn't like the kind of passion I think that went into it that we saw with Krasinski's film.
Yeah, it doesn't have that Jim clout.
From my perspective, I've seen more Bird Box memes on Instagram. So I think that one slapped harder.
That shit slaps.
Yeah, definitely better Vine challenges.
That's how I get my info. So I'm riding with Bird Box.
What do you got, honey? Nothing. We got more delays. We always got delays. This one I've been looking forward to as well, which is always a trend. I'm looking forward to The Thing that I'm not going to see anytime soon. This one for a movie called Antlers. This one not maybe getting as much press as something like Quiet Place 2. This is coming from Scott Cooper, who directed Hostels, which was a Western from a few years ago that I really liked. Really bummer Western.
He also did Out of the Furnace, which I really like.
Yeah. He makes bummer movies with Christian Bale, who's not in this one, but is a movie following some of the Wendigo mythology. Seems to have a kid who's feeding some meat to some weirdo in the attic.
We can all relate to that, right?
As you do.
Another one I was really excited for this year, and of course got pushed. I think it's really cool that they actually had like on the lore, like Native Americans that are actually like on the movie as
consultants.
So it's not ham-fisted and just like a white guy talking out his ass about it. Actually had consultants on the movie. And footage nice. Looked really, really creepy. I'm really excited about this one. And anything Guillermo del Toro puts his name on.
Oh, it's Guillermo del Toro doing it?
He's producing it.
Yeah.
See, like
very cool.
This film to me is like horror. Like every time I see a trailer for this, it scares the living shit out of me.
Yeah, you've been dreading the day that I might make you watch this with me.
I'm so excited.
I just can't.
Well, you got a little bit longer to wait now because it's not till February 19th, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
about those.
Valentine's Day.
It's a great Valentine's Day, weekend movie. So I know what I'm going to be doing for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I don't even know what you would, because you guys were talking about horror being like a subgenre. So I don't even know what you would put like antlers in, because for me it'd be like horror.
Horror.
It looks so freaking terrifying.
Definitely like a monster movie. Seems like.
I mean, I'm all subject to change. Just in my brain, I don't normally think of pure horror as a thing, but I mean, this could be the genre. This could be the exception that proves the rule.
Family horror, because it's got a little fella in it.
Definitely not family.
Is it
a little fella? He's got a mom.
It's like The Village.
It's a little fella,
I guess, is pure horror.
Mom and weirdo in the
trash.
I really hated The Village.
It's because it was bad. That's why you hated it.
I really hated
kombucha.
it.
No, I don't think
so
that's
kombucha.
I don't think that's a hot take. The Village was bad.
It wasn't good.
I hated it.
Can we? Well, speaking of movies that you should hate, can we talk Ari Aster for a minute?
Aster?
Ari Aster, yeah, Hereditary and Midsommar.
Well, you were a fan of those movies.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
As much as one can be.
I'm talking shit about Ari Aster, so I'll have to excuse myself for.
No. There's something like he's like the most well-crafted joke I think anyone's ever told. Is how I would view Ari Aster. Like he has so much value. It's just absolutely misunderstood. Like a good joke is something you laugh at, but there's so much material loaded into the telling that a good joke can make you think, but at the same time, just laugh at it. Like first reaction, just laugh.
Just laugh at the man in the bear costume. Don't ask what. Just laugh at the weirdo in the attic and feed him meat.
Yeah, just feed your attic man meat. That's all.
And take him out for Valentine's Day to go see Antlers next year.
So that is
more delays. It's like a weekly hallmark of the show. Train to Busan Peninsula, no longer coming out August 7th. I mean, we called that one on the show previously, but it's only moving back to August 21st, so it's still holding on, thinking, maybe somebody will watch this movie in a movie theater in 2020. And even our man, Russell Crowe, is unhinged. He backed off. From July 31st and went back. Obviously, it's not coming out tomorrow. And he went to August 21st.
Yeah, he's real pissed. Did you see that picture? He's pissed off. He's like, I got delayed.
This movie is gonna be so bad.
What?
Oh, it's gonna be so good.
No, it is not.
I'm excited.
Russell Crowe's Unhinged is coming out. It's gonna be the first movie that ever comes out since the pandemic. It's gonna make $1 billion. People are gonna be so excited. They're going, "What's playing? Unhinged. What's that?" Wait, who's unhinged? Russell Crowe is unhinged? I gotta see what that's all about. What happened to him?
Because some girl honked at him. He got so pissed, he tracked her down.
He got honked at. They go, "Oh, he got honked at. I see now."
Common story.
It's Russell Crowe, not Vinnie Jones.
So the thing is, though, thing to note here is that some of these movies aren't just kicking it all the way to 2021. They apparently think they're going to get to come out on some sort of schedule this year, and the movie chains are supporting that hypothesis that Regal plans to open in August 21st, won't make people wear masks while they watch movies, which is a back down from what they had said a couple weeks ago. When they were going to open this month, they said they will. Now they're saying they won't. I'm not sure what the strategy is there. And AMC's opening up, and they even said that with Universal Studios, when they put movies out, within 3 weeks, the new movies can go straight to demand. People can start renting them for $20. So if you can wait 3 weeks to watch Fast and the Furious, you could just do it from your living room if you're so inclined.
For $20?
For 20 big ones to watch Vin Diesel drop far off a mountain.
I wouldn't watch Fast and Furious 20 times for $20.
Well, I guess I wouldn't either. I wouldn't watch it for $1 a pop. You do a little better than that. It's like a whole.
You're not a fan of the Fast saga?
No. I'm not. Man. I really like Vin Diesel as Riddick, and that's it.
I own all 9 Fast movies.
My brother-in-law is a huge fan. My brother-in-law and wife are huge fans, and so I can't get away. I can't get
pieces like they're fun to watch.
I don't like cars that much. I'm not interested. I'd much rather watch.
Not even about
swords.
Cars anymore.
I just want lasers. I like swords and lasers.
Oh, they got those.
Yeah,
that's like all the movies. It's just swords and lasers. Cars.
Instead of calling it Fast and Furious, when they start calling it Swords and Lasers 9, I'll start watching.
It's 9.
Like it's always been about family, and if that's important to you,
yeah, it's about family. Ludacris let it slip on a radio show that they might be going to space in number 9. So we'll see.
They might be going to space.
Yeah.
All right. If maybe I'll watch it if they're in space. That's close to lasers. It's close enough.
Oh, maybe you'll watch it.
Ion drives in that Mustang. But
Matt and I have done some brainstorming on our Fast and Furious ideas lately. Stuff involved like drifting buggies on the moon.
Is it directed by Michael Bay?
Sure. And we came up with a dystopian, post-apocalyptic Fast and the Furious. I thought that sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, like Mad Max meets Fast and the Furious.
Right, with a cameo from both Master Chief and the Doom guy. And all right, I'll watch it. Yes, I'll watch it.
You never seen? Oh yeah, sorry, you never seen Mad Max.
I've never seen Mad Max, and I've never seen Fast and the Furious.
Wait, what?
I can loan you my Fast.
Not the first one, not the original.
Oh, you're talking about the very first one.
Yeah, I've never seen the first one, the second one.
You never need to see the first or the second Mad Max, really, and only watch the first half of Thunderdome and then Fury Road. Don't watch the Lost Kids part, because what the hell is happening?
We saw Hobbs and Shaw.
I've got 1 through 7 in Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, it's worth
1 through 8. And
can you put your Amazon code in the description so that we can click it? Product link.
Emphasizing that the last Fast and Furious movie came out had a bulletproof man in it, so that's where we're at these days.
It's true. I mean, like I said, I can't escape them. I've seen way more of them than I want to have seen, but no, I'm not a fan.
Oh, that's a shame.
It is.
It's okay. We all have flaws.
Well,
we were
speak
born
for yourself,
that way.
sir. Kombucha. I know yours.
Come on, it's real hot on the kombucha.
It's good for your tummy.
I mean,
no, not mine.
When I'm drinking, doesn't taste good.
Wait, what does it say? Follow your gut.
I'd rather just eat yogurt and less cheese, and I'd be fine.
Mine tastes like a cleaning solution.
Yogurt or kombucha?
My kombucha. My booch.
The booch. Classic
Not
booch.
that booch.
Can we stop saying that?
Hashtag the booch.
Hey, can we sound off in the chat? Come on, booches. Sound off.
Booches. Sound out for Jessica.
Which flavor do I have? Let's see.
Turpentine and vinegar.
I'm drinking some grapefruit booch.
Grape booch.
I'm drinking tropical punch that has pineapple, mango, and orange.
What does it actually taste like?
Like kombucha.
Snoochie boochies, baby.
I do not see any of the comments, so I don't know where these are coming from.
It's my secret booch chat. Don't worry about it.
Boots chat.
I uploaded a link to the booch subreddit. They're coming in hot.
Bring on the booches.
We got.
Wait, I have a question, if I may. Did I see correctly? And maybe this was covered on a previous episode. I'm a peasant. I'm sorry. But did I see Bruce Campbell is doing more Evil Dead potentially? Didn't he post something on Twitter about that, or something that may be construed as that?
Yes. There is an Evil Dead 4 coming out called. Wait, what? Evil Dead Rises. And
I'm very excited for that for horror.
Yeah,
if you want to call that horror, that's mostly just fun. That's fun with a chainsaw and a shotgun.
Evil Dead's the shit. That's my all-time.
Goes back in time.
That's Army of Darkness. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Evil. That's evil.
I'm a big fan of the remake / sequel.
The with the chick.
Yeah.
Lead. Yeah, that was a really good film. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was really surprised at the tone of it, just because of the established Evil Dead and Ash vs. Evil Dead and all that kind of stuff, which is so slapstick but so satisfying. Yeah. But yeah, the remake, I was surprised by the direction that it took. I liked it though.
I'm a big fan of Fede. I mean, even with the remake, and then he went on to do Don't Breathe, which I love. So I'm always on for some more Evil Dead, and there's an Evil Dead video game coming out that'll be on next gen. So I'll be playing that on PS5 when I get that shit,
or PC if you're not a peasant.
Well, I'm a peasant. So.
Well, you are a peasant, I thought.
A different peasant. Different peasants. We're different flavors of peasants.
Peasants.
Whoa. It's just like grapefruit versus fruit punch kombucha. They're different, but both peasants.
Tropical punch.
Tropical punch. I'm sorry. My
it's
mistake.
from the tropics.
Tropical booches.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell says he's not going to be in the new Evil Dead, but
yeah, because I thought he had said he was like done with that character previously.
Yeah, but he's voicing a character for the Evil Dead game, I believe. But I don't believe he's not going to be in the movie.
Right, his chin is too strong. You can't make a film without it.
And he's talking so much about it. He's the one that's dropping the news. It's not Sam Raimi or anybody else. So I think he's being coy about it with all this news he's dropping. I think he's going to be in it.
He has to be. That franchise cannot stand without his chin. It really can't.
I thought they did well enough without him in the remake, but I would love to see him back in the role, because I do love Ash vs. Evil Dead. I thought that series was great.
Very cool.
So I hope he comes back for the new movie.
Yeah, sorry, that was a big tangent. I'm sorry.
No, I loved it. I have the Evil Dead blanket and pillow. I'm sure. I'm any chance I get to talk about Evil Dead, I'm down for it.
Sequels, pretty big thing.
We're prone to tangents on this show. It happens, but not this time. We got a quick, lean, mean, streamlined program. It's gonna be right down the middle.
What about that really cool sequel for that horror film we saw today?
Oh, we Don't Fuck in the Woods 2.
Oh, I did watch Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Really?
It's an awful movie.
Says the guy who likes Tusk. What is this?
It's a free Tusk show.
I don't like Don't Fuck in the Woods.
That's just a good fortune cookie logic. Like, it's not a movie.
And then
Don't fuck in the woods.
All right.
Suggestions.
And then you crack open the next one. It says Don't Fuck in the Woods 2.
You're like,
the sequel.
I didn't fuck in the woods. Why is there a sequel?
but Cookie, I didn't.
Like, fuck in the woods as well.
How to speak Chinese? Yeah, but stop thinking about it now. Like,
Don't Fuck in the Woods 2, still not fucking in the woods.
Where's the really? Don't fuck in the woods.
Right. Really don't fuck in the woods.
Really, just don't do it.
Last summer?
Directed
by Ari Aster.
we got another delay. I was real sad about this one too because it's not even a movie, so I'm not sure what delayed this one. But the Adult Swim anime adaptation of Junji Ito's Uzumaki is not coming out until next year. Now, this is.
Did you see they released an art book of his?
They released some artwork.
An art book, like a Junji Ito like art book. Yeah, they finally. This is the first time his artwork has ever been collected into an art volume. But yeah, there's a Junji Ito art book. I don't know if it's out or they just announced it, but I did see that there was an art book for him.
I think that might have been released. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Junji Ito. I don't really have much reference with the world of manga, but I know I love Junji Ito. That's somebody I'll always come back to read. I think his art's amazing. And I was really looking forward to this because, I mean, again, that artwork, it looks like a 1-to-1 translation of his artwork. Like it's not even an interpretation. It's like, how can we make it look like the art on the page is just moving? This looks like a right off the page. And Uzumaki's a horrifying, weird, grotesque.
And it's also like the quintessential body horror, if you're not familiar with that genre, but you really like Junji Ito. Body horror is what you're interested in.
We're body horror stands on this show.
Yeah.
Also, Tusk is a treasure. How dare you?
Thank you.
Oh, I dare. I dare. It was easy, in fact. How dare I? Easily is how I dare.
Matt, have you seen Tusk? Do you know what we're talking about?
It's that guy from the Drew Barrymore movie, and someone turns him into like a whale.
A walrus.
Yeah.
Walrus.
And I hit all the major points.
Brandon, what's his name? Brandon Fleck? Something like that? I don't remember that.
Justin Long gets turned into a walrus.
Justin Long.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
He's from the Drew Barrymore movie. You know what I'm talking about, right?
That's the walrus.
Tusk.
Tusk.
Like the tusks.
I'm looking it up.
Like walrus.
You didn't like the walrus fucking scene.
You have our interest.
Oh, it's a horror comedy.
Yes.
Yes, but it is not. It's one of those like horror movies that had the comedy tacked on at the end because it's a horror movie. Really? It's a horror comedy? Like right. Okay, we'll accept it now.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't the guy who made Clerks direct it?
It was,
Kevin Smith.
I know his name. Yeah.
Kevin Smith.
We'll actually be talking about him a little bit more tonight too. We've got a little Smith news on the docket. But yeah,
hopefully it's not Tusk related.
I mean, it's I guess
how everyone
gently related to
close.
Your hand gestures make me uncomfortable. Stop it.
Well, so it's not Tusk related, but I will let you know Kevin Smith is developing a movie called Moose Jaws, which will have a evil moose fight Tusk the walrus.
Right.
Everyone feels when
Already bought my ticket for her. I preemptively bought my ticket. Very cool.
Yeah, they could release Moose Jaws tomorrow and I'd be in the movie theater. I don't give a shit.
I would have risked to see Moose Jaws right now.
I really hope neither of you are being serious.
100% serious. It is not alcohol or the sushi talking. I am 100% serious. I would risk my life to see Moose Jaws right now.
I do like Tusk, but the kombucha is speaking on this end, let me tell you.
I finished mine.
The booch is loud, baby.
Poor thing.
Something that we surprisingly haven't talked about this series, I don't think ever on this show. I'm surprised it hasn't come up before now. But we got some news on The Walking Dead. They just announced at this past stay-at-home Comic-Con, they announced a third series, the third one on television at the same time, called The Walking Dead Beyond. This is a still from that. They also announced that the primary show is coming back in October, was it, I believe? Season 10 is finishing in October, and that Fear the Walking Dead is also coming back for season 6 in October, and we got a trailer for that at Comic-Con as well. The first one, I mean, this is kind of unprecedented in that I can't think of any other television show that had like 3 concurrent series happening on TV at the same time. And this one, I mean, kind of an interesting premise. I don't know if you guys watched the trailer, but it takes place like 10 years after the other shows or after the collapse of society. So it's about reforming civilization and the struggles that come with it. But it seems to be like it primarily follows teenagers, like the generation of people who've only lived in the dystopia, which on paper I don't think sounds like a bad idea, but I'm going to invoke this for Connor. It looks a lot like a CW show.
It does, but I was very confused because I was like, am I supposed to know any of these characters? Because the last time I watched Walking Dead, it was the season that, spoilers, Glenn dies.
That's a pretty big spoiler. That's an old spoiler.
Yeah. Halfway in that season, I don't like how they do the like mid-season break.
Yeah.
Because then I lose interest. And I completely lost all interest, and I have no idea what season they're on. Season 10 now?
They're going to finish season 10 in October, and I think they have 6 episodes left, I believe.
I guess I'm 4 seasons behind. I don't know. But I was like, am I supposed to know any of these characters? I don't know. I feel like Walking Dead has been crammed down our throats.
Yeah.
Did you watch or read the comics at all as well?
Yeah.
So
I never finished them, and I know Kirkman did.
I didn't either. Yeah, I haven't read them either because I think I mean, they're both good but different. The show and the comics, like they have very different arcs, especially like in the beginning once you get into like season 2, season 3, like that's very different direction from like how you are like 50 issues into the comics or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think they were good, but I definitely am with Connor that they both my interest in both of them just like wilted into itself, and I think I'm totally fine with that, and I'm glad that Kirkman is done playing with it. I think he's been working on like Oblivion Song specifically, which is a good comic. Not that Walking Dead isn't, of course. I would say Walking Dead has a lot of fans. It deserves a lot of fans. That's why it has a lot of them. But yeah, Oblivion Song is another project that he's working on that I want to say he's got 3 volumes out of now. But yeah, comic fans out there that like Kirkman, give Oblivion Song a check out. It's got some like dimension hopping, post-apocalyptic, science-y, cool stuff going on.
So when Walking Dead was happening and the whole Negan like storyline when that was happening, I had this like worst case of like FOMO, like fear of missing out on like what was happening. And I was like, I need to catch up and watch it. And now I don't feel that at all.
Yeah.
I wish, I think it was on Cinemax. I wish Outcast had a similar like following. I wish there was 10 seasons of Outcast.
I'm not even familiar with Outcast, I don't think.
No, I'll have to lend you some the comics I have or the volumes I have with Outcast. It's really good. It's about demons and stuff. It's really cool.
Who did Outcast?
Hold on.
I think I'm almost positive I read the first volume, but it's not ringing the strong.
Aren't they making a Walking Dead movie too?
Yeah, so it's hard to
done by Kirkman.
It is Kirkman.
Yeah,
Can I see the cover? Yes, I have read that.
Yeah. This series is great. I think like the first 6 volumes and they're fantastic. I'll have to lend them to you, Taylor. Because they're good. And they did a couple seasons on Cinemax. And then they didn't pick it up for anymore. But it's great. The graphic novels are great. I wish the following that Walking Dead had, that, you know, Outcast had that same following, because at this point I don't know, like zombies just don't do it for me anymore.
Right.
It's a trend. It's definitely been like a thing that's been graphed out of when zombie movies are one thing and then it's opposed by vampire films, and they tend to go in trends that tend to coincide with certain political climates and political goings on and things like that. It's an interesting thing.
I do think Walking Dead has kind of lost its status as that cultural event thing that everyone's talking. Like, shows come around once in a while and they get that. Like, it's the Breaking Bad,
Game of Thrones.
Walking Dead definitely had that esteem for a while. I remember when it first premiered, it was like, wow, a TV show about zombies? That's different. Which sounds it's so funny to think of that now, because it's like,
I skipped school to watch. Like, I recorded. I was like, oh, I'm skipping school to watch this.
Yeah.
Which actually, speaking of the phenomenon of zombies and stuff, and it does tend to go in trends. Like I said, the previous trend, there's a young adult series, Forest of Hands and Teeth, which is about teenagers. It's very, very Twilight-y kind of, but it's written in sort of a zombie-infested world, which I recalled because of your description of the Walking Dead, the newest Walking Dead series, because it's about teenagers in a already zombie, like this is the only world that they've known and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a weird coming of age, finding yourself, teen romance kind of a thing. But there's a whole bunch of zombies. Plus, Forest of Hands and Teeth is a really cool title. But otherwise, it didn't necessarily make a huge impact on me. But if you like that kind of like tweeny romancy kind of stuff, I recommend Forest of Hands and Teeth.
Matt said something about a movie, the Walking Dead movie.
Yeah, and this is a kind of a consequence of the show starting, I think, so deep into the comic run that like it could never catch up, and characters would be alive in the comics, but actors wouldn't get out of the show. So like they had to divert and change course. And Andrew Lincoln's character Rick, who's like for all intents and purposes the star of the.
I've seen The Walking Dead.
You have seen The Walking Dead.
Yeah. I've seen up until when Rick leaves, and then I was like, thank God.
There you go.
Gotta do this anymore.
Well, he didn't really leave because they're making a whole series of movies based on his character.
But in my brain, that's like where the show ended forever.
I've never seen I've never seen the show. I tried watching the show, but the first episode was so boring to me.
There's like 6 episodes that are good.
I couldn't get through it. I just couldn't. I couldn't get hooked on it.
I couldn't even in like good conscience recommend the show, and because again, like it starts off kind of strong, but there's so much of it. I haven't watched it since around Negan being introduced. I have no frame of reference for what the hell's happening. I think Negan's like a good guy now, and like the only original character left is Daryl, and it's like, and now they have 2 spinoff series at the same time. It's just you got to get out while the going's good sometimes. Not a lot of shows have the like dignity to do that. It seems like it's we'll just run it into the ground and we'll end it when no one cares anymore. Do you
think this is like a streaming thing? Since like everyone's super aware that a lot of stuff is going to be moved and like syndicated on the streaming services, that since they have this gold mine of thing where they can produce 100 episodes for and just get steady ratings and then pawn it off on Netflix, do you think that's just the goal here?
I think that's definitely one good thing to think about, but I also think with the exclusivity of all of the different streaming services, we'll probably see a decline of that actually, because I think just like you see with a decline of exclusivity in video game consoles, like no one really does exclusivity. Now they're doing exclusive licenses. That's why you have Nioh is only on PS4 for a certain amount of time. And then they're trying to do that with video games on the PC of like doing Epic Game Store only versus Steam release only and stuff like that. And exclusivity just starts breeding competition of a different kind. And so I would say like, yes, what we are seeing is part of the rise of Netflix, but we're going to see something different probably in the next 5 years with the decline of Netflix and the rise of the exclusives. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now every network has their own streaming service now. HBO has the whole entire WB catalog. Universal has their own streaming service with Peacock. So
Disney Plus and
Disney Plus. So I get I feel like a lot of people do wait for these series to end up on Netflix. Because that's how I would watch it, is when the series would come out or the latest season would come out on Netflix, and I would watch it. And then the same thing, Shameless. That's how I would watch it. And then went to Netflix. But now every network has their own streaming service now, so I definitely see that decline is going to happen. I don't see this series. I feel like The Walking Dead, the main series, I feel like that'll end this like a season after this limited series will end. I give The Walking Dead 3 more seasons.
I thought it'd be over by now, honestly. If you told me this thing would still be running this in 2020, damn, like I don't even know what year it started, but
2010.
10.
2010.
Yeah,
Wow,
I think so.
10 years of this thing, man.
It's impressive and also sad.
shambling along. I mean, it must be working well enough for whatever their standard is. Because I get the sense that's it. It's just when enough people stop watching, that's when they'll end it. And I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing on it. And then there's going to be a movie for Rick and
several.
I don't even know if people are going to turn out for that. Apparently, this Beyond World show has some tie into that. I'm just going off YouTube comments, so my sources could be faulty. But apparently, like, you see a character in the trailer who's responsible for Rick disappearing or something like that. I don't even know how Rick left the show, so he might.
I don't either.
Yeah, I'm going off a WikiLeaks on this one, so I don't know.
I think it was via helicopter.
Okay, I think you see the helicopter in the trailer is what they were saying.
That's an important character.
That comes down and the like government agent.
Yeah, there's like a woman and she like kidnaps him.
Okay. I was wondering who that was. I was like, am I supposed to know who these people are? Especially that scene there. So I guess that explains it. That's the woman that's Rick.
Okay, so this somehow ties into Rick in the main series, and you get some revelatory detail on what happened to him.
Well, I'm assuming since they showed those characters in that trailer that maybe this is a limited series because
it is, yeah.
To directly the movie for Rick.
Maybe Rick the movie takes place 10 years from.
Yeah, it probably takes.
I want it to be called Rick the movie.
I hope it's called Rick the movie.
Well, I will say, I think like either this season, the past season of The Walking Dead, or the one before it, they do a time jump.
Okay.
So like the baby, I don't remember her name, Rick's daughter. She's like the lead now, I think, on the show.
Really?
As like a 11, 12-year-old or something like that.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because Carl's not around either, right?
Yeah, he got KO'd.
Carl!
Give him the chop, Doug.
Damn it, Carl!
Cool.
So you got some Walking Dead I get to look forward to, or maybe not look forward to. I don't know. It's gonna exist in perpetuity. Lastly, before we get to our trailers, this was a hot fresh story. We found out what the next post Candyman, what the next Jordan Peele production is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
A Issa Rae-led film called Sinkhole. This is also coming from Universal. Reported to be a thought-provoking genre piece that engages with questions of female perfection and identity about a young family that moves into their dream home except for the gaping sinkhole in the backyard. The mysterious sinkhole fixes broken and destroyed things. But what if that thing is a person, is what the story asks.
It's an Indian burial ground.
You don't need to say anything more than Jordan Peele.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah, I'd watch anything that he makes.
Is gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will see it.
Mm-hmm.
I love a nice scary hole too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nice scary hole.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is we keep referencing this movie, but I've not seen it. The Hole in the Ground. It seems like that's becoming a trend. Is scary holes in the ground.
It's the dark abyss.
The dark abyss. So yeah, like you said, Jordan Peele's always a gimme. So if he thinks the story's cool, I'm sure it'll meet my standard of quality as well. So just need to know what else is coming down the line from him. Obviously, we're still waiting to see what his spin on Candyman is, also directed by Nia DaCosta, but he's producing that.
Woo.
Whenever that comes out, whether it's going to be this year, who knows anymore. We still don't know what he's going to be directing next, I don't think. Oh, and then obviously he's producing Lovecraft Country as well, which we'll obviously have a couple words about later tonight.
You mentioned whatever he attaches his name to, you must feel like, there's a story there. There must be a confounding piece of cinema there. But then you look at like Antebellum, where they're pushing like Get Out and Us, but his name's not attached to it, and that makes you wonder about that movie.
Right, yeah. Or maybe that's something that never even landed on his desk, right? They just got this other guy.
Oh, there's one of the producers of these movies. Let's plug that name in there.
Yeah. Jordan, and that's the power of, I think, Jordan Peele's name is that you wouldn't say, if you were marketing a movie he made, you wouldn't say from the guy behind Us and Get Out. You would just say from Jordan Peele, and everybody goes, "Oh yeah. I know what that is."
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got a powerful name and reputation right now in show business, and especially within our beloved little subgenre here. So looking forward to that and getting more information about that as well. We do have a couple trailers before we get into the review stuff. The gentleman below, did you watch any of the trailers by chance?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Fantastic. All right, we'll get through them quick. Jessica,
Hey, you can curb me for a second. I can go use the bathroom.
Okay. He's gonna go let out the booch while we talk about this.
Let out the booch.
All right, Jessica, close your eyes. Coming to put a scary clown on the screen. Okay. We got a trailer for Terrifier 2, starring Art the Clown. I'm gonna take him off now. Okay, it's safe. He's gone. Jessica does not like clowns. He's an exceptionally scary one. So, Connor,
How do you feel
seen
about
these movies?
mimes?
Yes, I've seen Terrifier. It's a disgusting piece of cinema. I can't wait for the second one. He splits a woman down. It's a very gross scene. He splits her down with the chainsaw from badge to nose. He's right in half.
It's a good old bone saw tomahawk maneuver.
Yeah, it's very gross, but it's a scary clown. I love it. If I was 9 years old, I would be scared to death. I'd probably be dead from a heart attack at 9 years old. But now I'm 26. I had to think.
Do the math.
2020 minus
I can't wait for the next scary clown movie. So I'm all for Terrifier 2. I can't wait to see what inventive kills that Art the Clown comes up with.
Yeah, I've seen Terrifier, but I've not seen the movie. It's All Hallows Eve. Is that the movie he comes from originally?
What it's based off of, and it's one of those anthology horror flicks where
I weirdly haven't seen that one, but I saw the first Terrifier on a whim, a good Redbox rental in the middle of the night, which I feel like is the like perfect way to experience Terrifier. Is I'm gonna rent the Scary Clown DVD and go home in the middle of the night. Just a very yucky and crazy movie, and I expect Terrifier 2 will be more of that. And it sounds like we're gonna cover it, and Jessica's not gonna join us for that episode. We also got a trailer. What's that?
She doesn't want to join us for Terrifier 2 when we review that?
I don't think so. I'm getting negative vibes on this one. This one you threw in the notes, Connor. I actually had not heard about this. Was for a film called Amulet.
Yeah, I did not know about this one. Watched the trailer, and was that duct tape I was hearing in the trailer?
What was it?
Was that duct tape I was hearing in the trailer? I'm not sure what that.
Yeah,
duct tape. Yeah.
Really, made my skin crawl.
Yeah, seems to be. I couldn't get 100% grasp on what it was. A guy who has to stay with, not a nun, but some sort of. It's played by Dolores Umbridge of the Harry Potter series.
I know.
Some older lady and her daughter, in the middle of nowhere.
I thought it was like a coven almost.
Maybe it was a coven, and somebody's possessed by a demon or a demon
Convent or something.
or maybe not possessed by one, but
Coven and convent are very different things. Actually, not that different. They're both possessed by something.
I wasn't sure if they were supposed to. Wait, I'm getting the two movies mixed up.
No, we're the convent. You want the coven's downstairs.
You want the God people or the devil people? One of us has a T.
Wasn't there a priest in there that was being weird?
Never like that.
That narrows it down.
Was that a different one?
That's Kilroy. You're thinking of Kilroy. We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the other one. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, there's godly freaks in our trailer trend here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This looks pretty damn scary.
Yeah, I'm down for it. It might
What's
be one
door?
of the movies we review.
Yeah, and I think that one either is out or is coming out this week, I want to say.
I think it's August 6th.
Oh, okay. Maybe I saw a different one. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like there's like a monster behind the door. Something scary behind the door.
Wait, let me see that.
Right.
And an image?
Welcome back.
Hello.
We also got a trailer for the newest Kevin Smith film.
Oh, that's what it is.
Kilroy was here.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. I think it wasn't too long ago we were talking about how we wish Kevin Smith would go back to that out of his wheelhouse, doing more weird stuff. And here with Kilroy. And I completely forgot about this movie. I forgot it was coming. I remember hearing about it. But, it has the usual suspects. It has his daughter. No, you got to respect him as a dad. He loves his daughter. He puts him in his work. I think she's great.
But not so much that he won't have her face sliced off in the trailer.
Yes, obviously. And then you have everybody else, like I said, the usual suspects that he worked with. They're all in this. This looks both disgusting, funny, scary. I'm very excited for this. I'm assuming it's VOD. I feel like no studio really touches Kevin Smith anymore, which is a shame. I love Kevin Smith, but I will be watching this the moment it comes out.
It looks like a lot of people die.
Yeah, I think it's an anthology one, so it's.
Is it?
I think it's a couple little stories based around this Kilroy character, who's based on, if you've never seen before, I think this little illustration that dates back to like World War II, or maybe it's more recent. Maybe it's the Vietnam War. A war which is a little illustration of like a guy peeking over the wall with his nose sticking out.
Yeah, it's Vietnam. They showed in the trailer. They show them in Vietnam.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it originates in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was some little graffiti thing. You draw this guy peeking over the wall and write Kilroy was here. And somewhere along the way, Kevin Smith thought, hey, that's a jumping on point for a new anthology slasher movie about.
And it's based off of a pitch that they do. They do this segment, which I hope we eventually get to. I think it could be fun. They pitch like horror ideas. That's how Tusk came about. They just pitched these horror ideas on their podcast, and that's how they came up with this. They talked about it, came up with an idea. I hope we can get to that on Reely Scared at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not a notable movie that we're talking about. Maybe we can come up with something. I think that would be cool, especially with some authors like you guys. Maybe we can all do it again, come up with a scary, spooky idea, and
that was a fun pastime that we would do when we worked together. It was just like the random stuff that would come up, super slapstick, and then we would just decide to like turn the lamps down low and take whatever goofy ass idea it was, and now it's a horror idea.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll have to have you guys on again and do a segment like that.
Oh, we could make a horror Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
I feel like I've spun a lot of wheels on coming up with bizarre and insane story ideas and movie ideas with all three of you at some point. So we could absolutely translate that experience, and it'll probably be the longest episode we've ever done.
I have some illustrations.
I'm fine with it. I'll stay until 2 a.m. coming up with batshit crazy ideas.
Yeah,
I do that anyway. I have my sketchbook right here. That's what I was doing before.
Yeah, Adam has drawn some gross things we thought of.
Adorable.
Some gross things.
Adorable like kombucha.
Kombucha Man.
Oh.
You draw Kombucha Man before the stream?
Yes, I can.
Maybe he ferments in some kind of coffin.
Let me get started.
Some sort of like, I know Seth Rogen's coming out with the movie about being a pickle man, maybe something along those lines.
That looks good. Good.
I don't think it would. I haven't seen it, but that's surprising to hear someone say that about something that
this guy.
doing.
Is it live action?
Yes, it's called American Pickle.
Yeah, and it's about this guy who gets embalmed in a vat of pickles in 1920.
Oh yeah.
Years later, he's thawed out, hasn't aged, But
I thought this was a joke.
descendant,
I'm realizing now it's not.
his direct descendant, who was also played by Seth Rogen,
Yeah.
and
Ugh.
yeah, it looks insane. It looks funny.
Do they have scenes where they're both laughing together? Because
Okay.
Yes, they do.
oh, that's pretty boochy.
It's an HBO Max. If you don't have HBO Max, get it so you can,
No,
if you
you
don't have,
just told me I'm not ever getting HBO Max.
if you don't have cable and you don't have HBO, you need HBO Max so you can watch Lovecraft Country when we start talking about the show on August 20th.
A perfect plug. Well, all right, finally, real quick, because we are just about ready for our reviews. Last little trailer we had was for a horror western called The Pale Door.
Cool.
Can't remember this trailer.
This one with creepy little goblins on the wall.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the
God,
Rumble
witches.
of Witches.
Yeah.
Oh my God, honey.
Oh, did you get that booch burp? Little booch crept out.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Little American pickle crept out.
Oh,
Call it that.
My insides are fermenting. Yeah, it's a horror western about some train robbers who get attacked by witches.
Cool.
I'm in.
like goblin witches. They look
I'm in.
really, really
Western is also a great subgenre that shouldn't exist as a standalone, unless it's 310 to Yuma. That was a good one.
Good straight.
I really enjoyed Django. I really enjoyed Hateful Eight.
I have mixed feelings about Django. Hateful Eight was good.
Adam.
What?
I love Django. I think it's great. And Hateful Eight is
Hateful Eight was good one time.
only the second movie I've seen in modern times projected on film, and it was an experience. They had I went to the roadshow tour for it. They had it projected on film. They had the intermission. It was so good.
Yeah, I liked it. But like I said, one time, no reason to watch it again.
Yeah, I don't have enough time in the world to watch.
You don't have 4 hours to watch the miniseries?
but yeah, comic books also, it's a really cool genre. It translates really well to the page in graphic novels and comics, like East of West. Gotta read it. Yeah,
I think Western is right for horror because it's
it's really cool.
It's still understanding, and there's a lot of mystery. It's before like a really civilized.
It comes from like such a shitty time where everything is shitty, and so it breeds it leaves the door open for so many different kind of mistakes that build suspense. Like we don't need to worry about like, oh no, my very recent handgun is jammed. Like very recent handguns don't jam, but it's like, oh no, my shells are wet. like that's a much more believable thing when you're using
if a killer stalking me, I will just call the police.
Right, like I'm gonna jump in my way too fast car and drive somewhere, but it's like, oh no, the Wendigo's faster than my horse. Like I don't know why that's my Western.
No one can help me, and I'm dying.
Right, like I have a scratch or I have pink eye. I'm now in lethal danger. Like it's an escalation because of the technological limitations, which I think lends itself to much more interesting horror, much more sort of there's not as deep of a suspension of the disbelief required, so it makes it more believable, more palatable.
Yeah, and there's still so much mystery. Mythology and folklore is allowed to run wild because it's who knows. You just if you in your little shanty town, who knows what's out in the trees still? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a lot of conventions that I think need to be challenged also in the westerns, and I think maybe not too many people have the chops to do that, which is why we don't see too many westerns around anymore. But just because it's such a problematic relationship between like new Americans and First Nations people, and it can be very dicey trying to handle that relationship without propagating bad tropes or just trying to lean too far into painful tropes or hurtful tropes. And so I think it's probably a good thing to keep at arm's length until someone can get a handle on that, or someone with the mutual respect that they require to command, sort of like Jordan Peele walking in. No one else could have done Lovecraft Country. No one else could with the kind of content I think in that book. Otherwise, it would have been a shitstorm.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Before we
Right.
do, we'll talk about a movie. It's time for our review of The Rental, which I know Adam did not get a chance to watch, but Matt
I did not.
So you're just gonna have to believe everything we say about it, and it's
I do.
the truth.
No, you
Already.
do what you've been doing and disagree with everything that we've been saying.
I haven't been doing that. Nemo, we're together on this.
We loved this movie.
So yeah, we'll go around. Base thoughts, Connor. You loved it.
Loved it. I was engaged the whole time. And that's weird because it is such a slow burn movie. Nothing really happens until the final act, the final 20-30 minutes. Things happen, but it's not straight up in your face. It's small things, and then the final 30 minutes, it's real quick. But everything else is just building up to it. And I thought the character interactions between all of the characters and the actors, I thought they all had great chemistry, and I thought the interactions were believable and engaging enough to where I was glued to the screen. I didn't look at my phone once.
Mm-hmm.
I was so glued to this movie and so engaged in it that I couldn't stop looking at it. And I thought the cinematography was great. I thought the acting was great. I liked the pacing. Sometimes slow burn horror movies can get lost in that slow burn pace where you're just I don't give a shit anymore. But this one was very well paced to where it still added intrigue and that slow burn build up that it was worth it in the end game. So I loved it.
What'd you think of The Rental?
Oh, let Matt go first. He's a guest.
Oh, okay, guess first. And I'm interested to hear what Matt has to say because he texted me, "My goodness," but he wouldn't expand on whether that was a bad "my goodness" or a good "my goodness." What kind of "my goodness" was it?
Connor, I couldn't be further away from your opinion about the movie. Let me say that I thought the directing and acting were fine. They weren't great. It wasn't bad. They were all capable of doing their jobs. However, I thought the pacing was awful. I thought the character interactions were unbelievable. I thought they were especially the theme of race, which is brought up in the first half of the movie, just falls by the wayside. And it was very tone deaf of white guys because I looked it up to make sure who wrote the movie. It was two white guys.
Dave Franco.
To just use race as a tool sometimes because the brother, I'm sorry, I don't know all their names. So the successful brother is low key racist or at least accepting of this whitewashed world. And somehow the other girl that is a minority is attracted to him despite displaying for the rest of the movie. She has no tolerance for even micro transgressions against her. So I kind of was just I don't get why this was a theme in the movie. And it really made me kind of be ugh. And then at the end, I just felt breakneck speed stuff happening that I just was never cared or explained. And we didn't get confrontations that I wanted the whole time. They cheated and we never really get either one of those conversations. They both just sort of reveal and then dead, reveal and then dead. And I was we've been building this the whole time and it never delivered.
Yeah, by the time it's payoff time, it's not do what the mask is coming for you.
Yeah.
And then even he's superhuman, he gets hit in the face and just pulls it out, but then they reveal he's just a regular dude. And I was how did that happen?
It went through the mask. I don't think it really hit him.
Oh, you don't?
It's possible.
I think it did hit him.
I have
Yeah.
no idea.
He
'Cause they
reacted.
don't show space.
When he reacted when it got hit and when it hit him in the face. He reacted when that happened.
I think he was just a hard ass.
Yeah.
Just a tough guy. I guess.
Do you think that is played by Dave Franco? Because they never show his face, but I think it was Dave Franco.
So when he was pulling the mask off, I said, I went, it's going to be Dave Franco.
No, it wasn't.
But they never showed it.
No
I
way.
think it was Dave Franco.
It did look like him from behind.
Yes.
It
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Now that you say it, I didn't think it on my own. I'm just
I
hopping
think
on the bandwagon.
The same hair. They never showed his face. And I feel like they didn't do that because if they showed Dave Franco's face, you'd be like, oh, that's Dave Franco. Take you out of the movie.
You know, it would have been really scary if it was James Franco.
Just reading poetry.
Doing poor adaptations of classic novels.
Yeah.
What did you think? What did you think of the rental?
I thought it was. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a fresher idea of somebody coming in and renting Airbnbs and bugging them and, you know, watching the next people come in and then taking over and killing those people. I thought there was like a newer idea that I don't think I have seen in horror movies. I wouldn't categorize it as a horror movie because I didn't think it was like scary. I didn't think I think it was like the last 20 minutes of it is when it was kind of like a slasher film, but it was the most low-key slasher 20 minutes that I've ever seen. And I don't know. I wouldn't say it was a horror film. It wasn't that scary to me. It was very slow paced, but it was interesting to me. But I do agree a lot with what Matt said. There was a lot of built up in certain conversations that we didn't get satisfaction with. Like when she fell, I was like, what the fuck? I was just like, what the hell?
I actually kind of loved that.
I was like, wow, okay.
I kind of loved. Somebody needed to fall off the cliff after they threw Taylor, which by the way, I really don't appreciate for the first time ever. I'm watching a movie and a dude's name is Taylor, and it's some like quasi racist. I mean, he wasn't a murderer in the end, so that's cool. But I would like something more to aspire to than he wasn't a murderer. Come on, I'm trying to see more male Taylors in cinema. Come on, let's make it happen.
But,
This guy wasn't it.
But no, the character interactions I didn't think was believable. I so badly wanted them to get caught cheating. Like I so badly wanted it to happen. But I had expected the movie to go one way and it had went. I didn't expect it to be the way that it had ended up being. So that's why I enjoyed it, because usually I can kind of predict what's going to happen next, especially when it comes to horror films. But this one I didn't really see it coming. But I mean, I thought it was entertaining enough. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a good take on it, especially for Dave Franco's first horror film.
First any movie.
Yeah, first any movie, especially a take on horror film that can be pretty difficult to do. I thought it was pretty good for him.
Here's my thing with the whole the cheating subplot. It's not the main story, and the thing is when they're about to get caught is when the tone shifts. It shifts from this relationship drama to this stalking horror, like the stalking serial killer horror movie. So at that plot point, it shifts in genre pretty much, and I feel like that is like signifying like the idea of cheating, even, or the idea of getting caught cheating, especially when the two people are brothers, is scary enough, and that horror shifts into actual horror. It shifts into the serial killer stalking you, and pretty much end up killing everyone.
Mhm.
I was fine with that confrontation not happening because they confronted an actual evil. They confronted an actual serial killer. They weren't able to confront their own mistakes and ended up dying.
It's just the fact that they took so long them focusing it on the affair instead of it focusing on the serial killer terrorizing them. So if they're going to focus so much time on a certain event that's occurring inside the movie, then why not have that confrontation and have that satisfaction for the people that are actually viewing it? But if you're trying to focus the film specifically on the serial killer terrorizing people as a horror film, then put more focus on that on the film. That's my point.
I would agree with Connor if the characters were at all likable. The problem is everyone in the movie is unlikable. So by the time we get to the guy coming to kill them, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. They deserve it. Like, who cares?
I didn't like the two that cheated. I liked the wife. I thought she was fine.
He lost his dog, and she's just high on Molly, giving 0 fucks. And I was so annoyed by that.
That was funny. She's like, "Oh, they lost the dog." I was like, "All right, you dumb bitch."
But it made me dislike her. I was like, I don't like her anymore.
Very spiteful.
Brother with the dog. I liked it. In my opinion, he did nothing wrong. I felt bad for him.
He murders a man almost.
He's
He's a bad guy.
So from what he saw, that guy was attacking his girlfriend, who he didn't know was cheating on him.
Pretty sure we've all almost murdered someone.
I was gonna say, if your reaction to that scene is "I'm gonna nearly murder a man," you're a bad guy. There's 1,000 other options.
Probably would have murdered him if his friends didn't stop him from doing it.
But
He was already convicted of a similar assault earlier in his life.
But that wasn't totally out of character because it was established.
No, I agree it's in his character, but that makes him a bad person and not someone I'm rooting for.
Right. He's now a dick, as established.
Yeah.
He lost his dog. He's in a very traumatic His girlfriend lost his dog, and before he left, he specifically said, "Please let him in. Keep an eye on him. Let him in."
And now you got Taylor in the bathroom manhandling your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he would have saved their life.
He was one of the only likable characters. And I'm not saying that they have to be likable in order to be engaging. I can engage with a horrible character, a character very unlikable. I can still engage with them. I can be like, I don't like this character because they're doing bad things. At least if they spark a reaction out of me, that's a good character.
I guess it's a character doesn't have to be somebody you want to be friends with, but as long as you buy their character,
I would say normally, yeah, but in a horror movie where there's someone else murdering, there has to be some balance of, because you already have evil, so where's the good?
Right. You need to have some sort of investment in the people not getting murdered.
So I wasn't like they should be murdered, they deserve to be murdered, but the fact that they are being murdered doesn't bother me at this point. And that's all I wanted. It was like,
it didn't bother me either.
for someone to show compassion. Like if they had confessed that they had cheated, even then you can root for them because you can say it took them a while, but they ultimately make the right decision. But they don't even get that. It's taken away from them. And they're just left to kind of be like, yep, I did it.
Yeah.
And then you die. So, and then I'm dying. So,
and
you say GG.
GG Nori.
The transition from kind of character drama or like romance friend drama to this is now a slasher movie really goes like night and day. It's like flip the switch. This is what the movie is that we're watching now. And I was excited when we got to it because obviously that was kind of the promise of the marketing of the movie of this is a like home invasion thriller about friends trapped remotely and are being pursued by a killer.
It's a good twist. Like when you think it's Taylor, and then the reveal is like, no, there's something actually wrong here.
Yeah.
That part was really well done. And I was like, okay, I'm invested. to see what happens, but then it just rushes through what I thought was a really
There are
interesting
good
dynamic.
scares in this though. When he's bolting at the door, the car door, like that struck me. And when she's trying to make her way down the deck, and you just see him come in the frame and grab her, like those. There's some effective scares in this movie.
Did you guys know right away he was wearing a mask? Because I didn't realize it.
I thought he was just a deformed, ugly motherfucker.
Yeah,
That's what I said. I was like, Taylor, did you see his fucking face?
Yeah, I was like, this dude looks a little spooky, huh?
Yeah.
I thought it was Michael Myers. Like I thought it just looked like a knockoff Michael Myers in the background.
It reminded me a lot of the scary.
The guy who owned it.
It reminded me a lot of Drive when Ryan Gosling wears that weird guy's mask.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. I would say I liked the movie. I agree. I think probably the biggest issues come from the script, which I don't try to criticize scripts too much because I didn't read the script for this. But seeing as it was written by Dave Franco and directed by Dave Franco, I got a feeling there's probably not a lot of discrepancies between the page and the film. I think he did a fine job directing it. I think it looks really nice. I think it's well made, but the narrative content of it is where I kind of struggle. Because again, like you guys kind of touched on all the facets of it. I didn't really like any of the characters. I bought that those characters. I believed in the characters as all genuinely bad people. They sold me that they all kind of sucked, and I was like, wow, this just feels like a miserable. I would hate to be hanging out with these guys for a weekend. This seems awful. So just so hostile and spiteful. You can't trust your best friend. You can't trust your wife or your husband or your brother. Like they're just all got secrets that they're hiding.
I don't want to cut you off, but I think that's where some of the tension comes in, like where it's believable is because the last thing they're thinking about is all this weird stuff that's happening. They're all focused on, okay, there's the camera. Like at one moment they're focused on the camera in the shower head. But then, like, the thought of being caught in this scandal takes over, and they're not worried about this, this
weirdo in the woods
background, this threat in the background, this door underneath the deck. They're not worried about any of that. They're just worried about their own mistakes. That when the actual threat pops up, that's like all hell breaks loose. And I personally think that was well done.
Well, I think because they don't know any better.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it was just when it finally got to like we're in horror movie mode. I kind of wanted more of it. It happened so abruptly.
I will admit that when it ended, I was like, I want more, especially when it was showing that he moved on to another like Airbnb type thing. And
yeah, I was weirded out because everybody was dead, and I was like, "This movie's not ending. What's going on here?"
Yeah,
but
I thought we were gonna see who it was. We never did.
Which I couldn't. I couldn't imagine revealing who he was. It wouldn't have mattered because it wouldn't have meant anything because there was no characters left in the movie. Everybody that we knew died.
That's true.
Including the primary suspect. He died. So there was like nobody else to twist and reveal. Mm-hmm. But that is kind of, I'm going back and forth on whether I like that it was very strangers, right? Where at the end it's like, who did it? You don't find out, and it wouldn't matter if you did because it's just some people who decided to do this. This definitely had that element to it, which I guess grounds it. I guess the end is just so abrupt that I didn't really feel much during it. I was like, well, because there's not even much of a struggle or a chase. It's like Alison Brie's character goes down. Dan Stevens checks on her, immediately down.
Yeah.
It's just like line them up, knock them down all within like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And even the last character I do like that somebody dies flying off the cliff because it feels like poetic justice, for dumping my man Tay off the cliff.
They kept talking about it. They were like, maybe he fell off the cliff. Maybe we threw him off the cliff.
Yeah.
Make sure the dog doesn't go off the cliff. Talking about this cliff, and then at the end, it's like, oh, someone flies off the cliff.
It felt like the right way, So here's something. Maybe the murderer knew them and knew how bad they were, and he's a good guy. Just making things up. Oh no, he's a good guy. I didn't read that part, so I put it up on the screen.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if he's a good guy.
a good guy.
Based on the ending where he moves on to another like Airbnb type thing, I don't think he knew these people. I think he just finds these rentals, rents them out.
He doesn't care who it is.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a Dexter-esque character though, and he knows where you're going to go before you do.
He's a chess player.
So he's setting a trap.
I think,
or maybe it's their cousins.
I think the drama between those four characters was happenstance. I think they just happened to have this drama, like while a serial killer was stalking them.
Yeah, for sure. There were everything that they were experiencing was completely inconsequential to what his plan was. Like, there could have been four great people. Didn't matter.
Based on what was happening in the credits, where it was just this normal family. But that wouldn't be engaging at all.
I thought it was so weird that he like used Taylor's truck to clean up. Like, I thought that was, for some reason, I thought that was strange and important for some reason.
Well, I assume because I just knowing how Airbnb works, if people started getting murdered at Airbnbs like repeatedly, it'd be pretty easy to get the guy's name, credit card information, and track him down. So I assume the idea is that he's trying to make it seem like Taylor did this. So no one looks into the Airbnb side of what's going on and just thinks it's this weirdo who killed people.
Yeah, that's why he put the hammer back into the toolbox, is because he was trying to frame someone that was already dead.
Yeah. Point.
He's got a strong side hustle. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Taylor, how did you feel about Taylor's death? Like his actual death?
I liked the off-screen black gloves. It was a very like giallo, like Dario Argento thing of like mysterious man in the shadows with black gloves is killing people. You don't see his face. Like I loved all that stuff because once you cut to Taylor knocked out in the tub and the black hands come in and smother him. That's when I was like, hey, what's going on here?
Because I didn't think that it was actually Taylor doing it. Because I told my Taylor, I told him, I was like, I think it's his brother because he mentioned that it was his brother.
That's what I'm saying. I thought the guy was his brother in that he was like deformed and was like cut off from society, and he was.
And then I was like, wait, he wouldn't kill his own brother. What is happening?
Although brothers suck in this universe, it seems like you can have a brother and be a total dick to him. You can.
I don't think that would happen. I don't know. But I mean, his reaction to seeing the camera in the shower seemed pretty genuine. So I don't know.
That's what I mean. That was really well done. When he says that, I was like, oh shit, he really doesn't know. Like there's something else afoot here. I was like, this is really. So I mean, I had a really good twist. It just took 55 minutes to get to it, whereas if it happened at like minute 25.
I love Hereditary, which took it's a 2.5 hour movie, give or take, and it took very long to actually get to.
Never saw it.
To that shift in tone. It's a family drama up to a certain point, and then gets batshit crazy. Same with Midsommar.
Love that movie.
I will say that Ari Aster finds that balance a lot better than Dave Franco does, but Dave Franco's on the right track. This is a very good first directorial debut, especially for horror. I think it was fine. I was glued to it. I wasn't bored with it. I was very involved in the character drama, and then I was very involved in the shift in tone. So maybe he's on the right track. Maybe his second feature will be a lot better. Either way, I think this is a very good first step into horror.
Yeah,
I would agree with that for sure. If you say, hey, I made a movie for the first time and this is what you have, I'd be like, oh, keep going. Keep making movies. You figured it out. So I think maybe with a stronger script, maybe if he partners with another writer or maybe just adapts.
What about Jordan Peele and Dave Franco present?
The Dream Team.
Yeah, the one we've been waiting for.
Have we been? Is it?
I'm in. Whatever. Give me a Western horror film with those two directing. I'm in. Right.
Oh, what if they starred in it too?
Yeah. Oh, even better.
Two gunslingers.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for the Jordan Peele feature that he puts himself in. I would love to see that.
I'm sure he's never done that. Yeah.
he's done like this comedy horror in Key and Peele, and he's put himself in it. I think he should pull an M. Night and throw himself in there for just like a cameo or something.
I don't think Adam liked the phrase "pull an M Night."
No, you never go full M Night.
On an upward trajectory, I loved The Visit. I loved Glass. I loved Unbreakable.
I haven't seen Glass yet, but I do like Split and Unbreakable.
Split is what I meant. Unbreakable is great, but I think his last few features have been great. The Servant's good on Apple TV.
I just feel like there's a certain like I'm definitely a believer that genius isn't a one person thing. Genius is never a one person thing. Genius comes from multiple minds. It comes from collaboration, and I don't think there is a good movie that a person has written themselves as the main character. I think so much of like a real believable, complex, full-bodied character comes from someone else's interpretation of a well-written character.
I think if Dave Franco did something and Blumhouse picked it up and Jason Blum did it, I think that could be a great horror film.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'll be interested to see if whatever he does next, because again, like I said, this is enough that I would hope he does something else.
Mhm.
I'll be interested to see if he keeps playing within genre movies or if he's going to do something that's a lot different from this.
Well, he's doing a elevated romantic comedy with his wife, Alison Brie.
Oh, and isn't he also, didn't we just discuss this on Real Talk? He's playing Vanilla Ice.
Yes, he is.
Now we're talking.
Well, that's right. He is married to Alison Brie.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, he directed.
That's why she's in the movie.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great.
Wow.
So Connor, that means you're extremely jealous, right?
No,
He's engaged.
it's a beautiful couple. And
To Alison Brie.
This is a long-running joke because Connor used to like be in love with Alison Brie, like totally in love.
it's true. And then I met my Alison Brie.
Yes. I just had to give you a hard time.
I don't think calling her your Alison Brie is the right move.
I'm with Adam on this one.
That's another person.
You're second place.
Yeah.
I found my second option.
I'm just saying, that
Congrats.
in my bedroom over there is what we like.
Oh, you're bragging.
Yeah, I'm bragging.
Humble brag.
It's a humble
Weird.
brag.
Nice flex.
I put a ring on it.
But yeah, and Jessica, to bring something up interesting over here, I guess The Rental is the second film ever to be simultaneously #1 at the theatrical box office and the demand charts at the same time, a symptom of the unique world we're living in right now. And I believe this made something like $400.
Yeah, $404,000 in theaters.
Okay,
I think being the one person that hasn't seen it,
yeah.
Hearing you guys talk about it makes me absolutely not want to see this film. I would.
Good.
There's no way I would watch it. Like if my wife was like, "Hey, have you heard anything about this?" I'd be like, "Yes, I have heard a thing or two about it." She's like, "You want to watch it?" I'd be like, "No."
No.
Just put on.
It was pretty split.
Just put on Princess and the Frog or something.
On
We watched that today.
really liking it or really
I'm a prophet.
liking it. But I think this is the first time where one of us really liked it and a couple of us did not like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like absolutely not a me film. Not at all.
It's a
should we go around and put it on the scale?
Yeah.
How many on a scale of 1 to 5, how many little puppies would you give it?
English bulldogs,
Little dogs. How many little dogs would you?
French bulldogs.
How many little French bulldogs would you give?
I would give it 3.
3?
French bulldogs.
3 little Frenchies?
3 little Frenchies.
How many Frenchies are you clocking it in at, Matt?
1 and like a half of a half.
Wow.
That's a
half
quarter.
Frenchie.
Quarter. 1 1/4 Frenchies.
One
hate-
and a half half.
You hate
Quarter.
to see a fraction of a
No,
French.
because see, people think quarters are nice because they're the most expensive coin we have. So I want them to know that it's actually just half of half. It's like not worth the 1.5.
Giving him the double check. You just want to cut him twice.
Yes.
You just want that Frenchie to suffer.
Like if you were hanging out
Dang.
on a Tinder date and you were like, "What movie can I put on that like halfway into I can make my move?"
Cowboys and Aliens is the answer to that.
You can
It works every time. Works every time.
How many Frenchies would you give it, Jessica?
I would give it 2.5 scary, deformed face masks.
Oh, okay.
I'm not doing I'm not cutting a bulldog Frenchie in half.
Can it be 2 Frenchies and half of a scary mask? Like
Yes, we'll do that.
Phantom of the Opera Frenchies. This half.
I would give it. I'll agree with Connor. I liked it, didn't love it, and thus I would give it 3 healthy, fully formed little Frenchies who have not been hurt in any way.
The most unreal.
Frenchies have been hurt in this review.
Just happy to be alive and quite chubby and hard of breathing.
I was kind of excited by the notion that he was maybe just going to steal that little dog and go home and like hang out with him now.
I know, and then he just left the French bulldog, and I was like, pick him up and take him. Be a nice guy.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. I thought we were getting a hero story. Like he picks up the dog, and we realize he's now the hero.
I'm sorry.
We get Rental 2 where he's killing more bad people.
John Wick.
Like, yeah, him.
This is a John Wick prequel, it sounds like. Like this is
could
how he
be.
gets the dog.
You're right. And he acted like John Wick, spot on.
I love John Wick.
love John Wick.
Love John Wick.
You do.
Okay.
And I think that concludes our rental review. Guess you should wait to rent it. Am I right?
No, I wouldn't even do that.
Talking about.
That's right. It's time for the book club portion of our show, Lovecraft Country. We read Lovecraft Country this month. Let me get the right banner up there. Jessica ducked out. She's going to take a nap because she did not have the time or maybe desire to read Lovecraft Country. I don't know.
I didn't have any time
Any time. It was
or desire.
or desire. I had a very
Sorry, Mr. Ruff.
I literally finished it last night, and that's not a reflection of.
I finished it right before I clocked out yesterday, so
Yeah,
I finished it on like the 3rd.
Yeah, Adam got there.
You're better. Than
I didn't finish it out of choice.
Oh,
a little quarter Frenchie of the way through.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna really cut this dog in half. That's right.
What a weird phrase. I'm just gonna.
We're gonna cut this dog in half right now, boys.
All right, boys, we're gonna cut this dog in half.
oh no, I need another beer for this.
Oh, you might want to grab 2.
You might want to grab you some booch.
If you want me to just spit hot take and then let you guys yell at me for 35 minutes,
No, I won't yell. I probably won't yell. No matter what you say, because it's a touchy subject. I by trade, I'm an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist. So race is an issue. Also, disclaimer: my wife is Jamaican, so I'm in a mixed race relationship, and so a lot of this book hit me really wrong, or perhaps really right. I'm sure it was intended, but
yeah.
But because it does make a huge deal that the author's a white guy. Like, I'll just throw that out there.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's a big deal for me.
Yeah. I caught the end of that, but I agree.
Yeah.
Connor, what did you think of Lovecraft? I'm gonna get to Matt. I might save the steam for last.
Okay.
All right. So the first part, the first story, because it's kind of split up in different stories. I really
there's what is it 6, 5, 4?
Yeah.
How many stories?
But that first story I really liked, and then there was a couple more after that where I was like, I don't know how I feel about how the author writes. It was very disengaging, but the last few I thought were very engaging. I thought they were really weird and creepy, especially the doll one. I was like, this is fucking creepy.
Yeah.
So, there were a couple where I was like, I don't care really about this. But the last few I really liked. And that first one I really liked. This is the first time I was telling my fiance just, I think yesterday, I'm going to be reading 3 books in 3 months. I think that's the most I've ever read in that amount of time. So I'm not familiar with this author's work. So I don't know if this is how he writes, but some of it, like, I just thought, like, he went too much into, like, describing what was going on. Like, it just kept going on page after page about, like, this one, like, thing. Like, this is an exaggeration, but it seemed like he went on, like, page after page about walking through a door or, like, describing a rock. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, just get to the creepy shit. And then it finally got to the creepy shit, and I stopped reading.
Well, I'll be my
so
turn.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I can't wait for the series. Watching the trailers for the series, I loved picking out stuff I had already read about.
Yeah. Adam, what did you think of Lovecraft Country?
I'm just trying to formulate my brain here.
Yeah.
Takes a minute. I don't have the benefit of the booch to fuel my brain. I'm unbooched.
I'm bringing the booch.
I'm boochless.
It's a lot to say what you thought of a whole book. So, but we can get into the grittiness of it over time. But I guess on a nutshell level, what did you? I wouldn't read it again, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone necessarily unless they were looking for a specific kind of thing. I think. What's that?
Can I ask you, does this turn you off of the notion of a series, even if it had J.J. Abrams and Jordan?
When you say like, you mean like of the television series?
Yes.
I'm curious to see what Jordan Peele does with it. Is what I want to see. I think he's a very transcendent mind when it comes to re-envisioning the Black experience. And so I really like how he deals with power dynamics. I really like the way that he tells like an inverted kind of hero story or almost an epic, and how he tells, like when you see that with like Get Out, of like the hero overcoming and all that kind of stuff. But he's dealing with like powerlessness, powerfulness, power, and things like that through the Black lens. And I think he does an excellent job of making movies. And I think one of the biggest crimes of the current movie making industry is calling like any of Jordan Peele's films Black films, because I feel like that takes them out of the pool of film and cinema, because what they are wonderful pieces of cinematography. They're just great cinema.
Films are Black films, are basically his films are Black exploitation.
Well, it's what I was thinking as you were talking about like Dave Franco's film. Like, it's such an insult to say it was a good film for a first try. Like, that's an insulting thing to say. Like, you mean it to be to say, like, as Taylor said, keep doing it. It's a good step in the right direction. But for someone in a professional setting, like, that's like such a gut punch to hear. Like, it was a great first try, and I feel like that qualifier is the same kind of thing. If you say Jordan Peele, like, he makes good, Black films. It's like, well, no, he just makes good movies.
Yeah.
Period. But I'm curious to see with the kind of lens that he takes with a lot of the work that he is producing himself, or with the stuff that he's interpreting and is going to be regurgitating in his own way. I'm curious to see how he lenses that. So I'm excited to see what he does with it. However, the book I didn't find very engaging. I also am not super familiar with Matt Ruff's other work. I don't know if a lot of the explication and stuff with like that really Tolkienic lengthy deep dive into like sort of the minutia. I don't know if that was intended to be like a purposeful replication of Lovecraft, because Lovecraft is tangential like that too. And a lot of his stuff is painful to try to get through. Lovecraft is a man who had decent ideas, but I think he is terrible at writing. But I feel that way about like Tolkien as well. George R. R. Martin is another one where I think he's a terrible writer, terrible storyteller, but he has a beautiful mind, and his, and the kinds of things that come out of it are wondrous. And so I don't know if it was an intentional try to like call in that Lovecraft into his work, or if that's just a penchant of his. But I also found like my eyes like trailing down the page, like let me find some dialogue that anchor my brain back to, because I'm just losing it. But I didn't have the payoff that apparently you did, Connor, because I was like waiting for the spooky shit, but there wasn't any spooky shit. Like there was nothing. It was effective as a horror device in that, like the kind of the way that he used racism and the racist interactions, because like your gut just drops when they get stopped by sheriffs and things like that. But because it's written by a white guy, it feels so cheap. It feels so shitty, because that's like you're feeling somewhat like the reason why I dislike it is because that's a real experience. That is a real experience that people have to go through. And so the fact that we are trying to monetize and enjoy that experience as horror, it's like getting on like a World War II themed roller coaster and like having the dives be like ovens. Like it's tasteless, and I understand what you're going for, but at the same time, like those are actual people's lived experiences, and they are painful and they are hurtful, and what you are doing is really insensitive at best and malicious at much more probably.
I would feel that way if they made it a white savior book at the end, but they didn't.
Did they though? Did they not? Almost all of their resources came from a white guy.
Neighborhood, and they said, you should probably avoid these areas because you're white.
Right, but almost all of the power that the black families, the black characters had in the book came from a white dude. Like all of the resources, all the supernatural stuff that happens, all of the being in the right place at the right time on almost every case, like it's the black characters flipping the script or surprising or taking advantage of the white characters, but the initial, like the inertia, the impetus of the action is always in the hands of white actors. Because it's always Caleb doing something or Samuel doing something.
Yeah.
And then it's Atticus or someone of his family, or Letitia or Ruby, that's taking the power that was given to them by this external white source, and then doing something unique with it, innovating with it, which I think is an interesting angle if you say that's what you were going for about like black innovation. But I'm pretty sure that's not the angle. That's just me putting my thoughts out there, like talking through it as we're sitting here, and it just felt really cheap. And like I said, I didn't like the fact that these are lived experiences. These are things that we see people out there today dealing with. Like when my 20-year-old brother-in-law gets stopped by cops, like the terror that he's feeling is not something that we should be putting into a book so that other people can feel some piece of that fear, so that we can, oh yeah, it's scary, it's horror, like that's cheap and it's vindictive almost. Like it shouldn't be that way.
Matt, how do you feel about Lovecraft Country?
I mean, Adam and I have a lot of shared sentiments about the book. I would start by saying I'm kind of tired of white people paying like homage to people who are racist, and like thinking that by somehow inverting what they've done, but still trying to profit off their ideas or likeness or notoriety, somehow is making them better.
We're talking about H.P. Lovecraft himself, of course.
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft is a racist. And
Absolutely.
When you pay homage to that in a title, and let me say this, I think the writer technically was proficient in what they were attempting to do, which is write exactly like Lovecraft did. Super boring, with terrible pacing, and just sort of rushing through the important details that I was expecting. And what's interesting to me is the most complex parts of the book that I got engaged with were when they were just stripped down to specific instances of racism, not where there's magic or horror or white people interacting with them. It's the terror of this black person got pulled over in the country and they have 6 minutes to get out of town.
Which to your point, I believe was stated as like the point of it is horror of the real. But yes, I agree with everything you've said so far.
So
it's shitty.
It was engaging, but then it is reminding that it's a white guy talking about an experience that he's never had, he can never understand.
Yeah.
I too am in a relationship with someone who's not white. And I remember showing up to this place where I live and a guy having a Trump sticker on the back of his car and thinking, like, what the fuck is going to happen next? Mm-hmm. And that's not because of what's going to happen to me. It's what I'm afraid is going to happen to the person with me. I can't even experience that terror, right? I'm experiencing it secondhand. So the fact that this guy just invested in Lovecraft in general kind of upset me from the get-go. And then I thought that a lot of what he was doing was trying to compare magic to racism, as in like they're not real things, and we need to get past these sorts of ways of thinking. Just upset me a little bit even more because I was like, racism is a real thing. It's not this mythical thing that just happens to people. It's enacted by the state and by laws. And I just felt like kind of missed that point. And like I said, I'm just not a fan of Lovecraft in general. So I check out when there's all these crazy things happening and no one's reacting to it, but yet they've never been exposed to it before. So they're just like, oh, there's a fucking hole in this museum. Cool, let's go in. It's like there is the struggle for my characters to say, what is going on? Why are we being subjected to this? And this would get the point of the racism across more, is if they're constantly talking about not wanting to be subjected to the things these white guys are doing to them, but how powerless they feel in a society that will not give them power. And that was just completely missed for me.
Yeah, the book was definitely not what I expected it to be. And I think part of my expectation comes out of what I had seen and understood the HBO series to be. Because I hadn't heard about this novel at all prior to them announcing they were going to do the show and starting to see trailers roll out for it. And so, you know, the initial premise or setup of you have Atticus and his father has gone missing and written in this letter, and he's being maybe held captive or has disappeared in this area called Lovecraft Country. And it not only is it, you know, so heavily segregated, but it's completely cut off from American civilization, period. So not only is it heavily racist, but it's in a different category because nobody even knows what happens in there anymore. And I thought that's where we were going to spend the whole book in, exploring that. Everything I expected the book to be gets covered in like the first 50 pages, I think. I did not know this was more of an anthology thing. All the characters know each other throughout the book, and it all kind of ties up neatly by the end when all their narratives kind of converge and conclude together. But I was kind of let down, especially once I realized that the book was not going to be in this strange horror story in some weird backwater part of like 1950s America. When I realized that's not what it was going to be, I kept spiraling and trying to figure out what is it going to be. You know, then it got to the Letitia section. It was like, this is a haunted house thing.
Yeah.
And then it jumped to, what was next? Hippolyta's story where Hippolyta. I never know those Amazonian names. Where she just kind of casually goes to another planet.
Yeah, I think that is the quintessential moment of Matt's primary. Do you prefer Matt or Matthew? I'm sorry, sir.
No, Matt's fine.
Oh, like your primary concern about, and also Lovecraft's, of like whether you're walking in a dreamscape of Relia or you just found a gateway to another world, like number one. It's written from almost like our current perspective of like we can conceptualize because of the media that we have. Like if we did see some sort of like gateway and it's like, wait a minute, I think I know what's going on. But this is at a time where like computers aren't a thing. And Hippolyta just like walks in and is like, well, I guess I'll just go to fucking space. Like, like there's no like
those two I really did not like.
They were much more popcorn for me, like popcorn scenes where like I could sit there and enjoy that. Like Letitia with the haunted house, I liked that one of her actually getting the ghost of Winthrop to taming the ghost essentially. Right. I liked that where she just sort of like gets, because that seemed more believable of having a racist ghost and then her just being like, listen up, old fucker, deal with it. I'm here now.
Yeah.
And then the ghost being like finding that common ground of he used to play checkers and chess with his kid, and then her like setting the chessboard or whatever. Like that scene, I liked it. That felt like a good illustration of like a connection and how connections happen, because connections always happen when you least expect them, and the strongest connections are over some of the smallest things sometimes, I think. And so like a game of chess personalizing a ghost and a modern woman, I thought was an interesting scene. They were enjoyable scenes. But otherwise, yeah, Matt's 100%. Like there was none of that. Like you should be concerned about what's happening right now, sir. Stop.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, especially in what was it, Hippolyta?
Hippolyta.
She just walked through, and then just fine with everything. Wasn't worried about like, hey, this portal might close.
The rock monster that's eating people.
Be checking the portal to make sure it's not closed.
Yeah,
like
tie a rope or something through it. Like
I don't know how long you've been out since you woke up in this strange place, and like check on the portal. Make sure you can leave.
Well, it seemed like all the characters in the book were behaving as if they knew it was a book and that there was another chapter. So they're like, we don't have to worry about anything bad happening because I know there's another chapter coming and I'm going to be there. So
I'm sure there's some cheap like justification for it. Like, well, these are characters that are used to being in situations and taking the present, blah, 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 because racism.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, definitely the answer to every question in this book is, well, because racism. So you can't understand it either. Therefore, we don't have to explain it.
Which is very Lovecraft. That's very Lovecraft, is it not? Right? Like the color out of the color out of space. Well, it's a color that you can't possibly imagine, and therefore I don't need to describe it because I'm an unreliable narrator. So fuck you guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's just shortchanges the reader every step of the way, and it never it breaks the first tenet of like writing, in my opinion, which is respect your audience. So like they don't ever act like we did the world building. They just throw you in the world and go, you better accept it because everyone else does.
And number two, deliver, I would say, is rule number 2. And he delivers nothing ever. I want Shoggoths.
Which was the second to last story. I really like that Devil Doll story.
The weird that was the one that made me go, what? The most was actually the Devil Doll. Did you get that far, Matt?
I did not. Like I said, museum, and I didn't even finish up the museum part. I don't think I checked out.
The premise of the Devil Doll one is that there was the coven, the Chicago coven, with like the people that didn't like Winthrop or whatever, and then there's the Braithwaites or whatever, and so at one point it was whose son was it? It was Hippolyta's. Yeah, Hippolyta's and George's son. And the cop lieutenant or whatever corners him, and because they ended up finding the Orthia Blue comic at the gateway in the stars or whatever, and so they know that it had to be Hippolyta, but they kind of are trying to talk him into spying or whatever. So he the dude with the cigar always spits on his hands and rubs a mark, like a hex mark, into the kid's head.
Sorry.
And it's supposed to be written in blood, but it's not. It's in spit, but it's still a real strong mark or whatever. And this mark makes it so inanimate objects try to target him. And so there's a garden gnome scene where a garden gnome is like trying to trip him, or does trip him successfully when he's at someone's house delivering food. And then his friends that he plays like proto D&D with up in an attic has they got this devil doll in some like kid's toy shipment or whatever, and the devil doll of course tries to kill him, and it straight up Chucky's him now. It's not just trying to hijinks or whatever. It's just actually he's being accosted by a doll in a park, where then in this park where he's being chased by, he gets picked up by several warlocks. And then Caleb Braithwaite, Deus Ex Machina, comes in and saves the day. Again, white savior. He's right there. But Yeah, so it's it's such a problematic and ridiculous scene, but
I'm super confused how this thing got published. Like, not in a mean way, because like I said, he's technically proficient at writing, so I have no doubt that if he came up with a idea that had nothing to do with race, he could probably write a pretty decent story. But I don't know how a publisher went, yeah, this is the move for us. Like, even for him, someone didn't step up to him and say, this is just like not what we should be promoting at this point in time.
I didn't see when it actually got published. Actually,
it's I actually did like that. The story Adam was describing. I actually like that story probably the most of the book because it's the only one that gets close to an actually scary story because it's told from the perspective of a child. Yeah. So Matt, I know for you the big holdup was, and as we discussed here, so many characters are facing these extraordinarily strange and supernatural circumstances. And they aren't really reacting to it. They're going, well, I guess I'm in a magic house. I guess there's a ghost. Well, I'm on another planet now. The kid is the only character in the whole book who goes like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. Right, what did you fucking do to my head?
I'm being coerced by magic police. Inanimate objects are following me and trying to kill me. When I try to tell my mom what happened, I start spasming. I'm so freaked out.
Part of the mark is that he can't tell someone that it happened to him. So
he's
which of course is such a cheap gimme.
He's the only character, and I guess it's a consequence of him being the only one who doesn't get to be in on the conversations of their weird magical lifestyles the rest of his family's having. But he's the only character who like panics and is scared and freaks out and is running. So I actually liked that story the most. And I thought from that point to the end of the book was where it started to pick up a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's what I told you. I think I was texting you, and I was like, these last few segments are actually really good.
I really like.
I was having a really hard time getting through the book. I was like, it's hard to get through this. And then I was texting you, and you were like, yeah, I agree. And then I was like, well, I just started like these last few segments are actually really good. So
yeah, I really liked the Montrose's story too, where he goes to visit the not the Braithwaite ghost, but
the
Winthrop ghost.
Yeah, it was Winthrop, but he was
Winthrop's son.
Get his journals and tells this,
I like it too. Yeah,
I like that the ghost is like, basically Montrose has to go get these journals from a member of the Winthrop family who's dead. Braithwaite sends him to go get it. And
they don't know that he's dead.
Right. So but because he's a ghost or a spirit, he's like, I want something in return. You obviously can't really give me anything because nothing matters to me. I'm a spirit, but I want you to tell me a story and make me feel something. And so Montrose tells this story from his childhood during the Tulsa riots, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of he and his family in a hurry trying to get out of town.
I don't know if the Tulsa riot necessarily count. Tulsa massacre probably is more accurate.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, Taylor, but I want to harken back to what you guys were talking about. He walked from winter to summer, and he was just like, okay, I'm going to keep walking to this house. There was really no reaction to like, okay, the season changed. What the fuck's going on?
Well, at that point in the book, it wasn't
at that point
because
at that point, I feel like they would kind of expect that kind of.
He's like, everywhere I go, people are casting spells.
That's the least weird thing that's happened to him up to this point.
Yeah. But yeah, he tells the story of trying to escape Tulsa during the bombings and the attacks, and his father and his brother George going out to try to save a couple people, and him going to try to save his father, and his father scoops him up and runs home with him and gets shot, and he basically dies in his father. Or no, his father dies while carrying him to safety. I thought that was, and again, it's strange to get a story like that from a white author like you. And I was always conscious of that. I'm like, is this exploiting real world tragedy and terror, and coming from a white author, is that problematic or not? And I read the little blurb towards the end about, there's a little interview in the book with him towards the end from a magazine or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he had said he had sort of fought with that himself, specifically in the case of Tulsa, whether it was wrong to take something like that and sort of dramatize it.
Then he did it.
No,
and I guess he made peace with it. Obviously, he decided it's okay.
we're on the topic of the Tulsa massacre, and Natalie said that it was a massacre, and it absolutely was. And with HBO making this into a series, they also did Watchmen, which also heavily relied on this was the watching Watchmen series was the first time I heard about Tulsa massacre.
Yeah, a lot of people had that experience. I had that experience. Yeah,
and I haven't seen it yet.
And do you think that going into the series, and mind you, Watchmen was made by a white filmmaker, a white artist, Damon Lindelof.
Yeah, white showrunner. Yeah,
white showrunner. There we go. Do you think that that HBO will also go back into the Tulsa massacre? Will they incorporate this segment of the story? Because from what we've seen, it looks like they're only relying on the first part of it. Do you think they're going to go back to the Tulsa massacre in the series?
I think you almost have to. I don't think you can. I guess, yeah, it is weird that within a year's time they're already going to have another big dramatic series that's going to weave, real world tragedy and history in with a fictional narrative, and you're using the same one. But I think it's so important for the characters in the story. I don't think there's really any way around it. You'd probably be doing the story a disservice to not touch on that. And I do think from the latest trailer of it, I can pick out other stuff. Like I can pick out Ruby's story. I'm guessing that.
I saw that in there.
I'm guessing that white woman is her changing into Hillary, which is also another one for this.
Cthulhu's never in the book. Am I mistaken? I never.
Say what?
Cthulhu, was that ever in the book?
So
no, Cthulhu's not. No.
So yeah, I was getting to this.
In the series.
I was getting to this. There's really no monster, no literal physical manifestation of creature monsters anywhere in the book, which I was also surprised by, which is kind of Lovecraftian in the respect that Lovecraft didn't really, I mean, I guess you have your Shoggoths, but your Cthulhu and cosmic horror, it's always like, it's writings about them, it's totems to them, it's references to them, and if you even just read the book about Cthulhu, you'd go insane. Or if you saw,
there was no madness.
Yeah, there was no element of madness, and there was no because the show's trailers very clearly do have these literal manifestations of monsters. So much so that yes, the latest trailer literally has Cthulhu screaming at people in it.
Good. I think. And actually, I'm curious for Matt's perspective on this as well, because since I know you said, and I don't want to misquote you, it's not a quote. I apologize. But that you usually tune out or turn off once you start to see people like hearkening on or pulling from these ill-gotten gains like Lovecraft and shit like that. How do you feel about like Cthulhu mythos, like the sort of the proliferation of Cthulhu mythos stuff in the general, like the cosmic horror genre, like eldritch horror kind of stuff? Is that like a turnoff for you in particular, like blanket statement?
In some ways, but I would say that, certain things enter into the creative space and sort of take on a name of their own. Because I think a lot of people would know what Cthulhu is, but not know that Lovecraft is even a human being, let alone what he did on planet Earth. So it's sort of entered in its own self-referential way of just existing as a monster that scares people. So it's not like if someone uses Cthulhu, I think that they're out for negativity in any way. I think that they could just not be as informed as they might want to be on what they're using, or it's not a blanket statement, but this is intentionally chosen because of the race issues surrounding Lovecraft, which means that it's a choice he's making. He's doing correctly.
Taylor have talked about, like, HP has been, it's notoriously a racist piece of shit. And we were talking about with Antlers how they had actual consultants from, actual Native American consultants on the story that way they didn't kind of tarnish this story.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. As someone who folklore is
Having a black filmmaker like Jordan Peele behind the series, do you think that it will do the story justice? Do you think they will right the wrongs of the story and actually make the series, less problematic than what the book was?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would trust that if here's a problem when you say like the word consultant, I would say, what does that really mean?
right. Who are those people?
Why aren't we actually appointing them to positions of power within the movie itself and allowing someone like that to direct or have creative control? Why are we relegating those people when we're stealing from them to an adjacent position to me? So Jordan Peele being in control means I can trust that someone with a good vision for this sort of thing, incorporating sort of the forgotten or misunderstood way African American people have to live in our culture and highlighting those things for people who may not be informed about them. He has a really good eye for that. So I trust that he'll clean it up. But unfortunately, I think the source material he's working from is not good enough to produce anything like worthwhile. But I don't.
You do think
that's
there will be some problems with the series, but you think it will?
I think it'll just creatively, like from an interesting standpoint, I wouldn't want to watch it. The book wasn't interesting, and I don't think that unless they deviate completely what was from written, like in the second half of the book, that they can achieve anything. Because I agreed with Taylor. The most interesting part was the idea of Lovecraft Country, because what it does is exposing. You could have incorporated other writers of the same ilk who might be praised but are actually racist, homophobic. And you could have had this entire world where these people are praised by the derelicts of society. And everything is, this is terrible. And that idea is interesting. And that's why I said it's just a miss, because we rushed by that. And then we're just thrown back into the real world, which is exactly the same as the other world. And there's never a distinction made, which, like I said, I believe is intentional. So I think the writer did his job. It's just
right. It was a stupid job.
Yes. Exactly.
Why did you take this fucking job?
No one should have applied. No one should have hired. It should have just been automated.
Which I'm curious. That does. I agree with the consultant. What Matt said about consultancy. And going back to antlers, if I may, for just a minute, off topic. I'm curious about that, since as an anthropologist, like folklore is one of those like adjacency things that I have very dear to me. Like especially like ethnically, I'm Slavic. That doesn't mean anything to my identity, but Slavic folklore is ridiculous and awesome. But I know specifically, having worked with like Saginaw Chippewa, when I went to Central Michigan University, we had an affiliate tribe that we did things with, especially when it came to like our museum curation and things like that. So we tried to be respectful of the First Nations that were in the area, since Michigan, where I went to school, has a lot of First Nations groups. A lot of First Nations are very protective of their lore, in terms of it's not a thing to be given out. Like it's not like a currency to be spent. It's not it's not like it's sharing it is not a thing to an outsider. So I'm very curious my first question is, who are these consultants that would sort of deviate from what I understand as a social norm, especially like I know the Dine people I know are specifically very close with their folklore. And so if you're doing things like Wendigo or Lushi, things like that are things they don't talk about, because that's part of like the invocation of these things is part of their mythos, and that invoking them is not only disrespectful, it's potentially dangerous. So like, what are you doing? Like, who are these people that are consultants, and who are they? Number one, what are their credentials? And number two, who are they that they would even do that? Is my question. And so when it comes to like the Lovecraft Country, I have similar questions of like, or perhaps I would say that allays those questions. I don't have those questions, because you do see people like Peele that are the showrunners, whether they're producers, I believe, right? Because he's producing it. And so obviously with some level of executive, like creative control over what's being shown and what topics are being addressed. And if they do have things like Cthulhu and actual like eldritch horror, monster, kind of stuff, like I feel like it would be a much more successful thing. I mean, it would be like literally every single time someone has tried to make a film about the Doom games, right? It always becomes like this adrenaline kind of a thriller kind of thing, and no one wants that. Like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you give anyone who's even ever played the video game creative control and see what happens? Like, I feel like it's going to be that kind of thing where it's like, well, it's Doom. We want to see a bunch of demons get punched to death and ripped up and shot with big guns, and we want explosions. And we don't, I mean, The Rock would be nice, but he's got to wear the Doom Guy helmet because we all want the helmet. That's what we want to see. And the BFG needs to not look like it's made out of plastic, like it always fucking is. But no, that's what we want to see. And so I feel like with Peele at the helm of the production team, he'll be able to make those kinds of decisions in terms of, and be able to, as a person who has had these lived experiences of racism and being able to understand the sensitivity versus insensitivity, and like, well, okay, this is a true experience, but this isn't a true experience that I want to just put out on TV, because like knowing what to put out when, and the pacing and I mean, legit talking about trigger and content warnings, there are going to be some things that can evoke an emotion without triggering an emotion, and I feel like those are going to be nuances that like a white production staff wouldn't have necessarily, because it's just like, let's use X as the response generator, you know, like we see that so much when it comes to like sexual violence being used as a tool for male authors and things like that. It's like, well, how do I evoke an emotion? Let's use sexual violence in some capacity. And it's like, that's really insensitive and actually hurtful to people sometimes. So you need to be conscious of that. And I think Peele is very, very able to do that.
Yeah. I didn't like this book as much.
Long rant, sorry.
No, I'm loving it.
It's super informative. I appreciate the information.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I'm loving the discussion we're having, man. I didn't like this book as much as I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
To make me less interested in the show. No, because I still think there are some interesting ideas in it. I think as a premise or a concept, the idea of comparing eldritch or cosmic horror to the real world terror of racism, that's something that's interesting. Taking the mythos created by an unapologetic racist author and repurposing it and using it to tell a story happening in the midst of segregationist America, that's interesting. But I don't know that I love the execution so much, unfortunately. And I think a lot of it might, even though as far as, you know, some white dude can tell, I trust that maybe he did his research and tried to be as honest to the material and as respectful as he could. But whether he still succeeded in that, I'm not sure. I would like to see somebody like Jordan Peele who could more internalize those ideas and the drama in it and reinterpret it himself. I think maybe he could come up with a version that improves on the concepts that the book is putting forward, but maybe not quite nailing. And I think it's even evident just in those trailers. There's some different stuff in there. Again, more on the monster end of it, but we're talking about Cthulhu. That's not in the book. I remember in the early trailers, there was some more overt something coming out of the darkness, whereas the more Lovecraftian elements are always just sort of passively referred to in this. So I think in both respects, and the weird fiction part of it, and then in the using real world history and real world tragedy to support a fictional narrative, I think Jordan Peele and Misha Green and J.J. Abrams in there too, but because Jordan Peele is interested in it, I think maybe he can take that smorgasbord of thought and interpret it in a way that's going to be more compelling, I think, than in this book, more respectful to the source material, and not only an engaging social story and story based in history, but also a more interesting horror story, a thriller, because we've seen him do that in his movies.
I agree with you, and I agree with everything everybody has been saying. I agree that my excitement for the book did not match my excitement for the series.
Yeah.
I did not love the book as much as I thought I was going to. I still liked it enough. I liked some of the stories. Did not like all of them. I did find problems, as we've all have said. It's problematic. But the fact that the series does have Jordan Peele attached to it, I think that the series will be less problematic. And I'm still excited for the series, despite what I thought of it.
Yeah, I agree, and I can see different elements from the book. Having read it, I can pick out things on the trailer like, oh, okay, it's not just going to be Atticus's story like I thought. It's not just going to be taking place at the manor. Which, by the way, I can't believe the book never got back to that. Got back to Lovecraft Country. It never got back there. I thought, okay, we've left, but there's going to be some sort of inciting incident where we got to go back, and that's where the
showdown was going to end at Lovecraft Country.
Yeah, it's right there in the title, but you get out of it within the first story. That was very strange to me.
Yeah, but that goes back to my point about he's just using Lovecraft to profit, is what it seems like, because it's not a central theme outside of writing like him. It's not a central location. It's not even a character. It's something that happens and they forget about instantly. So just throwing that in the title is to try and entice people who like Lovecraft to buy the book and profit off of racism still, which is what the whole issue stems from.
Right.
Yeah. It was not what I expected, and I mean, did I hate the book? No, I wouldn't have been able to finish if I hated it, and that's maybe what Matt experienced.
It's not that I hate it. It's just that there's so many more talented people out there who are doing things that don't embrace these sorts of ideas, that to take my time and put it into this when I could be giving it to people who are doing better things with their time. Like I said, respect the audience. I didn't feel like he respected me, so I'm going to go find a writer who does. I don't think he's probably a bad guy, just a little misguided, misinformed in this situation. And that's why it's important for people to speak up and say, you might be coming from this from a positive place and trying to highlight aspects of our lifestyle that you're not aware of, but he just missed the boat. And that's, I put more fault on editors and publishers who read it and put a stamp of approval as to say, this is what we stand behind. So not necessarily maybe an issue with him, but people who were putting the money out.
I think that that does bring in the irony of the complexion of the people having this kind of racial conversation right now as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like irony is not lost there. I would have loved to have had someone with lived experiences that they could relate to the book as well. But like my wife specifically had asked, like, oh, well, did you like your book? Should I read it? And I just said, no, like, don't read it. It would be much more, it would do more harm than good. It wouldn't be a fun thing. I mean, it's like for people like me, I'm not exactly, you might be able to tell, I'm not exactly an adrenaline junkie. It's like I don't have the wherewithal to like separate the adrenaline surge that I get from the drop on a roller coaster or someone pointing a gun at my face. Like, it's just a surge of adrenaline and it makes me shaky and I get headaches and I don't like that. It's that kind of a thing, except it's a roller coaster ride that you weren't expecting, and it's just drops. It's just a drop where it's just like the whole time that I'm reading this book, like my gut is just on the floor, and it just is like the whole time. I'm just like, this is just painful to me, and this isn't even an experience that I've had.
And I want to say, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you are listening to this or watching it and you've gotten to this point and you heard our thoughts about it, and you are a person of color, please let us know what you think about it. Let us know if, we're being ignorant on some things and you have thoughts on the subject matter. Or if you're watching this, our social media is at the top there. We're available at Who Are They, Real Entertainment. Please reach out if we've missed the mark on anything. If you have any thoughts about the subject matter and your personal color, please let us know. In previous episodes, myself and Taylor have both expressed, we are white people. We are white guys. and we are striving to learn more and be more informed, and we are reaching out to be more informed. So if there is a discussion from someone of color that we can learn more from and be more informed about, especially about a book about racism that was written by a white guy, and there's 4 white guys talking about it. If you're a person of color and we've missed the mark on it, please let us know and share your thoughts. We would love to hear them. We would love to hear your voice about it. So that's all I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, I would just say if you are one of those people and you should read the book and maybe you could come on the podcast and you can express it yourself even someday. So that's what I would encourage is, uplift your voice. Don't think that you could just send an email, you could reach out and you might be able to get on and talk about it. So I encourage you to use your voice.
Yeah.
And to follow up on, I'm sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
Just saying, we always have basically an open door policy on this show. Anybody who is interested in coming in, if there's a movie, if there's a subject, if there's a book, if there's anything where you go, I would love to be a part of that conversation, or I would like to contribute to that in some way, and I would like to share my perspective. We're always looking to expand perspective.
Matter on a previous episode, like this book. If you want to come on next episode, or the next episode, or the next episode, and you want to share a thought on a previous subject matter that we've discussed, by all means, come on. Our episodes are quite long. We're at 2:45 now.
This might be an all-timer here, yeah.
Off the rails in having lengthy discussions. So even if it is something that we've discussed previously, we're more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about, this whole channel is about is discussion and talking. That's all we want to do is talk about horror, and it's a horror book, and we just want to hear your thoughts on stuff we talk about.
And one other thing that I would like to circle back on. I don't know if are we over time? Is that the thing?
No, there's no time limit. So
one thing I would like to circle back on regarding the Tulsa massacre, whether it's Watchmen or this book, the one thing that I would say is that there is value in material, specifically art or TV shows, bringing up things that, like Connor had said, and Taylor, I believe, echoed the sentiment. You didn't know about the Tulsa massacre until you saw it on Watchmen. That's one good thing that can come from this kind of a project, learning about histories that you maybe did forget about. But I would also like to say that I still am in Matt's camp here, that it feels like there's more of profiteering going on rather than anything else. And so there is good source material written by indigenous authors, Black authors, that does involve this stuff. Like if you're interested in like the Biafran War in Sudan, I'm sorry, is it Sudan the Biafran War was? It's an African civil war, but like War Girls is a book by Onyebuchi. Onyebuchi is the last name of the author. But it's like a African Gundam kind of story. So big robot, cybernetic super soldier girls that go to war and stuff. But it's a modern retelling. Tochi Onyebuchi, that's the author. It's a retelling of the Biafran War, which a lot of people have never even heard of the Biafran War because they don't have vested interest in stuff like that. But Tochi is a Black author with several credentials. He's also very learned, many degrees. Really interesting character if you're not familiar. But it's a pretty good read. You more I would say more toward the young adult audience and stuff like that. But that being said, especially for viewers that do have different material or different books that are inspired by things like the Tulsa massacre or like the Tuskegee Airmen or things like that, something that's more on point or written by someone with a more lived experience of that. I'd be very interested to see recommendations that would maybe touch on some of the same subjects that maybe aren't being pirated by white dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was mentioned we had a long show here. Maybe it is about time to wind down. But that being said, is there anything else that anybody would like to say, whether in respect to this book or some of the ideas and themes we're talking about, or the show, or anything like this? Anything else we'd like to say before we start winding down here?
I love this discussion. I think this is one of the better discussions we've had about anything on the show. So
yeah,
I thank both of you for coming on. Like I said, I would love to have both of you on again, whether it be just, to pop in on anything, news item, just to say hey and discuss what you've been watching or reading, anything like that. Even if we introduce that segment that I mentioned earlier, just coming up with a crazy idea. This was one of the funnest shows that we've had.
Yeah, no, I echo that sentiment. I was very excited to get both of you guys on for this. I so very much respect and appreciate all of you, and I've creatively brainstormed and done things like that with you guys before. So I was very excited to have you guys collaborate on this, and thank you for taking the time out of your lives to I respect and love and appreciate Jessica as well. Thank you guys for not only coming on the show, but taking the time to read a whole, or in Matt's case, sum up.
I cut my dogs in half. You remember?
But taking the time out of your lives to read a whole book just to get in on the conversation, because that's not a small ask either. So I appreciate you guys coming on, having this great conversation with us.
Taylor, you want to tell the people what we're reading next month?
Great idea, Connor. Because we do have a novel pick for our book club in August. He's holding it up. That's going to be a book called Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. I'm very excited for this one. Paul Tremblay is one of my new favorite horror authors, or has become one over the last year or two. We also wrote Cabin at the End of the World, Head Full of Ghosts, Disappearance at Devil's Rock. This one is timely in some of the worst ways, and that is it is in fact a pandemic horror story.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, okay, so this is why I picked it.
I picked it because it's new, and it's from an author I very much like. And I've seen him sort of post that out too, like, yeah, wow, this is a really uncomfortable time for me to be releasing this book, but hey, I wrote it already, so I'm putting it out. But yeah, it's a pandemic horror story about, I believe, like a new strain of rabies with like a very short incubation time that's essentially creating, it's being touted as sort of a zombie story. I believe it's about a woman going into labor and a doctor or somebody trying to get her across this post-apocalyptic dystopian rabies zone so she can safely deliver. I think that I meant to have the bio right up here so I could read it word for word, but something along those lines, a pandemic horror story that might have some elements of zombies in it. Connor's got it. He might give us the. He might.
This is long. In a matter of weeks, Massachusetts has been overrun by an insidious virus that spread by saliva, like rabies. The infection causes confusion, loss of inhibition, terrible hallucinations, and gives rise to hydrophobia and aversion to water. But unlike rabies, the disease has a terrifying short incubation period of an hour or less. Those infected, both animals and humans, quickly lose their minds and are driven to bite and infect as many others as they can before they die or are killed.
Weird. So along those lines.
I have a unique relationship with rabies, so I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys
for any more context on that,
I love this discussion about a book. You know, like I said, this is the most I've read in this amount of time since ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even in school, I would just read Cliff Notes. So if you guys want to come on next month and discuss this book, if you guys want to read this book and come on and discuss, like we said, we have a revolving door. We have an open door. you want to come on and discuss, please do. Because this was great.
And movie-wise, next week we will also be discussing the film Relic.
Yeah.
Relic, and I think is next week host?
Yes. We are. No, that's it is host. We're doing
right.
Relic and host.
Next week we'll be talking about the new horror movie Relic, as well as the new film Host, which is unique in that we all knew it was going to exist. The first ever Zoom conference-based horror movie. We all knew that was going to happen.
It's
got
take long at all.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but you can buy critics. Happens all the time.
So that's what we'll be watching next week. So check those films out. Come back and chat with us. Matt and Adam, is there anything? I know you're two very creative individuals. Anything you would like to say while we got you on? Anything you'd like to plug?
Right now, I think the most recent short story I published is up at the under review. It's called Death, NFL Draft, and Social Justice, maybe. Go check it out. It's about my father dying and how I was watching the NFL draft and how essentially all public sports have drafts that just take on minorities and remove their autonomy, and how that relates to how I was feeling about my father's death. And they're really, really nice people over there who do a lot to forward other voices. I'm also just Google famous, so you can just type my name in. No one has my name, so you can just throw it in there, and all my writing will come up, and I'll be back again to talk about my book. It has a lot of the things I did not like about this book. My book deals with, and I hope a more intelligent way.
Okay.
And thank you to everyone, because I enjoyed the discussion. Adam, you're super smart. I found you super informative, so thank you. Connor, I thought you made some great points about the rental that I hadn't considered, so I appreciate that. And Taylor, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll set the store on fire.
You've both been great guests, so please come back on. We would love to have you back on.
Connor has never told me that.
Adam, anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up?
You're given.
I don't think really anything I want to plug necessarily. I do have a lot of projects that are in the works, but nothing that's really any kind of close to completion. I mean, I do art. I have a Facebook as well, Adam Wassel Writes. That's just facebook.com/Adam Wassel Writes. I haven't posted a whole lot on there. Add me on Facebook if you want. I'm just Adam Wassel. Instagram @DillyTodds. I post a lot of the art that I practice there, some concept stuff that I'm working on for video games. I posted on there, some comic stuff I started working on as well. I post up there, and again, I'm a new artist, so be mean, because that's how I learn. My writing, I had a few quarterly publications for poetry, but nothing really lately, so not a big deal. Don't worry about it. But I would like to say that I really like your brain, Matt. Both Matts. I see the other Matt has joined us as well. But Mr. Surback, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Even it's in this case, I know that you're up at the mall still, so with Mr. Cleek. So yeah, I'm recently ex-malled, which has been great. Like losing my job from COVID has been an incredible experience. Seriously, it's been an eye-opening thing to be able to be unemployed and work creatively full-time, because big shout out to my wife, working in Costco, been paying the bills, and she just said, you had so much of the burden while she was still in school, and so she said just she can get it covered, take time, and so I've been able to focus on my writing and my drawing and things like that, and it's been an incredible experience. So the one shout out I do need to give to is my wife. She's the best person on the planet.
Big ups.
Fantastic. Is Matt Thomas here to plug something? He popped up at the end.
I'm here to plug multiple things. First off, I want to give a big congratulations to our buddy Nick Melbach, one of the founders of this network. His and Leonardo's film Stir Crazy is a semi-finalist in the 15-second horror movie award. So congratulations to them. This Sunday, remember, we got an episode of Real Talk. Contrary to what will be said in tomorrow's episode of Really Trivia Showdown, Sunday's match is not live. We have pushed that back to next Friday, and it will not be live. Be prepared for a Umbrella Academy Season 2 review on Sunday, coming from myself, maybe.
I'm coming up.
Hell yeah. from me, Connor, and maybe Chris if he gets lucky enough to sneak some in tomorrow before he starts his drive to Oklahoma. So once again, congratulations to our buddy Chris, and yeah, just thank you two for coming on. You're welcome on at any time on any show. As a black guy who is dating a white girl, you actually hit a lot of the things issues I have in the world. So it's good to hear that. And I just got to throw this up real quick. So yeah,
The plug master.
Plug master.
but
Yeah,
yes,
plugging all day.
plugging all that.
Yes, these two.
But yeah, so
Plugging
that's all that's coming up. And next Friday, as shown in the opening for the show, we are doing a live introduction of most of our new competitors for the Reely Trivia Showdown going into the regular season. So that's going to be fun. So woohoo! 3 hours, we hit it, boys. Let's go.
That's an all-timer right there, and that feels like the time to get out. So once again, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Thank you for everybody who watched and stuck with
Thanks
us.
for having me.
The long, quality
It was awesome
conversation.
meeting both of you.
Yeah.
After the discussion, I'm going to say it again. Please both come back on. I would love.
Connor, I'm gonna come back on to talk to you about G Fuel. Because
I heard it was pretty good.
Great. I love G Fuel.
I heard
I have been, since shotgunning a G Fuel, I have taken a break from G Fuel and not had G Fuel since Sunday morning.
After we get sponsored.
Until we get sponsored. That was what you said. No breaks until sponsorship.
Don't drink another one until we get sponsored. Next one's free.
Yeah, I won't drink another one. I won't even buy another tub until we get sponsored.
That's all right. Ghouls and Goblins, my friends here on the stream, thank you again for joining.
Buy the merch, Teespring. Get your Really Scared merch.
Yeah, there'll be a link in the bio. We'll get it. All right. Good night, my friends. Good night, my ghouls and my goblins. We'll see you next week.
The first 3 hour show, I just want to say that.
Yes.
This time we
Easy.
pushed 3 hours, and I love it.
Easy. If you want to go for a 12-hour one for charity, I'm in.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
For charity, baby. Extra Life. We'll stream some video games. We'll play some D&D. It'll be great.
Do it. Let's do it.
Work on it.
I'm in for some D&D.
Starting right now.
Go with me.
Nah. Good night, guys. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
See you next week.